Yeah.
Yeah, I got her. Yep.
I'll find you.
That is not my
I'll go see if there's still one in
I'm not trying to get my fingers all
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
He
yeah,
definitely has one in his backpack. You can find it.
Okay.
Kevin. Yes.
Fork emergency?
Absolutely yes.
Just yelled four?
He's like, I got one. We heard you yell, Kevin.
You guys have to bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a spoon, I guess, if it needs to be. Or a knife. Oh, that's got a fork too. No, that's got a fork in there.
Yeah, I know.
And see, this.
Like, if you want only a fork, we could save that
Yeah,
knife
let's
for
say
another
that one.
day.
Yeah. Save that.
Wow, that's clear. Oh, I don't, yeah.
You're not the coach you deserve, but it's the coach you
You need to be able to eat under any circumstances.
Good luck.
Thank you. Alright, good luck. Thanks.
Once we got there, I only want to. But we also extend it.
You guys are-
I guess they'll be speaking in there, so true. I'll let you. Like there we go.
Yeah, but he looked.
I just mean the like live stream, I think is correctly pointed at.
Someone.
Yeah, the live stream is there.
I'm gonna fix that for the people.
Graham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right now it's pointing. So you know. Don't make any jokes. Or like wave to the people, I don't know.
That's the mic that's hooked up to the stream. We want to move it more towards like the center of the room. If that's.
Oh, the mic, oh, yeah, sorry, I remembered about the camera, but not about the.
It's all good.
Good call, thanks, Sharon.
Just.
It's you or me, but, everything turned into the box.
That's okay, I can fix it up. Oh, yeah.
It's so sad, no lies when you're walking over. I thought she was.
Thanks so much. Oh, yeah, this is so good.
drop cancers lost.
Michaela judged it. I don't know anything beyond that. You gotta stop doing that. Man. You really gotta stop.
Yeah, sure.
I'm feeling like,
I'm fine. I just want to know. It's so crazy.
There's one access in here.
What's up?
We can swap them.
I'm gonna do whatever.
Yeah, it's not. I would prefer one, but it's not a huge deal.
I'm at 1.5. I can spend my guy now.
Sure.
Just checking everyone's here. You have all my judges. The 1XC has been sent. Just let me know when everyone's going.
He has tremendous stamina.
Okay, 2 teams, 5 judges, good, thank you.
Is anyone not ready? We feel good?
Yep.
Advantage 1 is autonomy. We are in the midst of a healthcare crisis. Administrative burdens have decimated the morale and stability of the physician workforce. That's price 25. Physician duties and feelability, anxiety, stress. It is not sustainable, especially with primary care. We have critical shortage stress. This year's from the previous years, things releasing of these stress indicators have gone back up in the good of the height of the pressures and the recovery of those with staff shortages and demands. And the root cause is the unilateral meaningful use mandate of electronic health records, which renders healthcare fiscally and structurally unsustainable. That's Article 19. The ongoing crisis of burnout can be traced between these of years, which is not the errors on the by collusion, the physical crisis, and not having aggression, this level of the growing crisis of burnout, reducing the level standards, you not really take that. And you have to across the board will be secret everyone increasing production with the reporting spend increasing likely reduce work hours from max uses with losing graduate time medical time lead. I think it's short of 90,000 positions in other like our video or not absolutely come up to see plus 199,000 releasing which not $2 million for those with increasing medical errors and burnout makes pandemics inevitable. Gallagher 23. Diseases now have higher burnout time for further from the sample as evolving in corporate solutions that back levels just ensure the lot of the nature of the rest of the appreciation of the computer system challenges that could become normalized back in retention for those who are the least ones and that has been seriously impacted in. That's specifically true of PCPs, but 23. Documentation clinical burden of 69% of PCP that was either like needed to data included to additional letters data for every hour of patient contact to make more times likely to report that Asian or little time to advance Asian knows to be challenged across the others. Time to message from the work that so much time spent issues at home. Other vendors might the most important brand left the number of results position that study PCPs and primary care specifically key to avert pandemics. That's law 23. Currently with the Northern Practice seamlessly report of pandemics. Teaching friends contributing to the sense that people healthy there, but measures accessible stress and work with health conduct and the first defense to identify cases over here, monitors and the ground countermeasures for health system coffee using reconnecting community support and existential pandemics are becoming more likely and cause a series of conversion crises. Ball 25. We can see that education process releasing to mechanisms of burden and energy mechanisms introducing global instructions for frame solution of the benefits of complete kills, secret rising after disinvesting prevention and mission as well to unnecessary mortality promptedness and the later fast escalation of both national crisis and global alternatives to be serious measures of the medicine using the reasons exerting that are health system organized and activate health and spiral to nuclear, biological, and chemical wars as a key 21. Pandemic season for wars are used to weapons cause one to starvation of entire species response to aggressive action to the balance system matter by new chemical and biological injuries started the pandemic create accidents opportunity for sectors of cardboard to undertaking budget bloom belches with national cascading risk of war and disease turns every impact till 23 years of time PC 12 and years time pandemics were like the active conflict and the pandemic combating system dominate contribute access and root cause and accelerated inequality increase in the contract and knockdown investment in peacekeeping in countries being able to prevent and living to instability to social balance was given me some collective work not challenge of working together coordination collaboration to all risk of opportunities opportunities close workers building collaboration it outweighs nuclear war and its perception based global at all 23 even if colder nuclear could not be done to the super with nations could oversee only that is we found circle outside it doesn't include our life and nations with brothers and fear condition could have failed a lot of reasons society class options existence could be injured misinterpreted lot even rational was over if we're these all day with the class risk contract virus assumption as important reality and physician burnout spirals triggering a cascading collapse in public health infrastructure this 23 Burnout inversion that public health and ownership with 90,000 physicians considering as aging public health is not rises high cost systems that for principal and all three burnout cause a drop in healthcare capacity changes work over main physicians are burnout societal public health financial burdens and operational risk that's an impact culture strong healthcare results to prevent exigent crisis from causing extinction by all 20 national instability does not raise natural disaster for systems going to that was threats terrorism economic crisis climate change health and burden and also social abuse and stress of an incident recovery and also the ability of mechanisms surveillance includes a protection of health and international incentive on health systems I think the system should increase the resilience of the nation burnout spikes ABR over prescription par 23 relative the 500 representing well-being for representative 40,000 who patients at extinction, Arthur 18. Causes of like these causes by professors of human and other disease or life cycle development, evolutionary branch, and agriculture, we live in the age of supervision, center, organized by loss of variable constitution, extinction threat, effective hospital resiliency, and physician coordination is key to prevent bioterror. That's working all too. Since my articles and to remain at all times, early detection, continuing treatment, communication, or crucial responding physician in the hospital should be prepared. Physicians are frontline soldiers. Bioweapons cause extinction, UVON 25. Gene editing, CRISPR, and synthetic bioweapons alter disease bioweapons and engineered weapons. They can all be uncontrolled by non-select disease design of specific targets, labor, and for triggering mutation, pre-programmation, long-term, unpredictably bypassing immune response, even after collapse, engine pathogens not ending, complete recovery. Impossible to start journey, also global attention, part of the plan is insulated instead of the collapse, will trigger cascading delivery threats, rapidly across every system, single failure, start with wall causing a chain reaction that leads to total collapse, reject defense, or easily engineered to 20. Attack medical eliminate vaccine by target, skill level, and fighting needed, X and third most available by ability, people have the knowledge. There's means and motive from both state and non-state actors, militant team. There's a long track record of state run bioweapon breaches of weapons delivery, the cutting edge of the Canadian US and UK bioweapon efforts, fighting aerobiology, dream wars, weapon, research across multiple continents, actually decided to authorize after destroy most of the mounted weapons and non-state actors and capabilities, but this changes biotech becomes accessible. Advantage 2 is corporatization. Despite acceptance of resistance to collectively bargain, independent physicians are excluded AMA 23. Physicians can engage in collective bargaining as the process to be labor to the physicians are independent contractors or businesses. Independent physicians are the cornerstone of rural healthcare shifts. Corporatization causes closures. Pearson 25. Independent physicians related decline 43% corporate ownership increase for better decline access related independent practices within the cornerstone rate of care for rural areas. Corporate activism closure profits personal class ownership better rural clients living patients without access to care share. Independent rural physicians fall to 25%, and rural hospitals are bankrupt. Now, so shifting to independent physicians is key to guarantee access in rural areas. Top 25. Citizens learning that responses finding that rural closure to access rural hospitals closure are estimated to the current system independent physicians serve in the funds for more affordable care data faster and operate significantly lower cost and hospital counterparts. They stays close to the ground and small practices becomes more efficient, financially sound, and resilient decentralized with results in the cyber attack and connected IT systems. Else, lack of healthcare collapses rural communities. Numeral 25. Rural healthcare collapsing hospitals make emergency consequences of life and death, economic and national security. In case Americans live in multiple years, targets become characters rather than forcing rural communities to expensive hospital solution. Doesn't private care. This doesn't just save money. Rules allow rural communities to maintain healthcare infrastructure down to disaster or pandemic. Preventing the closure of rural hospitals is vital for agriculture prevents worker shortages. SRH 23. Rural hospitals provide healthcare services in the community with many of no alternate sources of nations food and energy come to rural communities that are farm funded and solar cannot function for the health of people of level working communities that do not follow the fruits of life in rural communities because of the land needed to grow crops and raise cattle. Rural health to provide health as workers supply and family rural communities come to coal, gas, oil, wind, and solar. Domestic insecurity cascades globally and fuels conflict due to price escalation and volatility. Tower 16. Ag is primary income for rural country GDP growth 4% more than other sectors. The causal relation between security and political instability cascading volatile price rules and price public governments and underprice of the capital's from conflict risk. Use increase because disruption to establish a global leader. Global food security bring both sides of the together to swing strong against leadership. Food insecurity goes nuclear. COVID-19. Severe hunger by really dark panic consumes of to 12 refugees, civilian fleeing comes with degrees of reference of the most likely scenario. Termination of humans. Externally maintain rural communities fronts unsustainable level of urban migration. Else extinction. 723. Sustainability challenges of integration of human resources. Resource leads sustainable development. Urban digital development. The econ process better interquality of its parameters. Exposed to the climate change, overworking resources, and migration from urban migrations and to get involved in remote lands and social maintaining ecosystems. Urban overlease over exploitation. Negotiation power stops losses in independent practitioners. 9023. 4 or 5 citizens like need to better negotiations as well. All things better management. Business model shift from independent practices due to cost and cost and administrative burdens. It's reverse causal. The desire for independence trumps all other factors, but is reliant on bargaining power. Probably 25. Unionization was a way to gain political independent private equity involvement has raised considerable profit equals presidency overpatient care political autonomy lack of autonomy independence top reasons to unite 75% of the take the exchange units under corporate control and corporate governance of profit making. Thus, the plan: the United States federal government should essentially strengthen collective bargaining rights, resistance, including mandatory bargaining over electronic health records. That solves. 1 is bargaining. The plan reclarifies this is impressing to shield penalties of positions that unionize over unilateral issue implementation belonging in all 22. Under law, physicians selected under bargaining have used software not to subject the hospitals requires bargaining software directly impact working conditions working hours. The subject bargaining the burden of EMRs is an open question every level of implementation of practice is yet to be reviewed. Allowing physicians to tailor usage to their practice is key. Draw it all 19. Adjustment of required changes to the EVR, increasing physician engagement, design like implementing the and customization of EVRs and documentation based on physicians. Specifically, negotiating out of bureaucratic tasks solve the root cause of burnout requires at all 17. The root cause of patient burnout increases the math of bureaucracy at odds with the passion documentation really not come from more patient to smash with using EMR implemented logic and hospital own groups. The signal of collective bargaining rights is key to implementing all 24. Increasing the and consolidation, this physical loss of autonomy without bargaining physicians has to consider fear, termination, autonomy, and control, possibly back to health and study, investigate practice, motive, physicians, reporter, voices, important conversation, includes autonomy, time, long hours and rules, units, rapid voice, and obtain influences, include the United States, and regain influence to restore bargaining, and regain authority. That alone counters burnout and decreases strikes, slow and working 24. Healthcare under restructuring law corporate entity began acquiring practice provision consumer reunited by 26 this accelerated past years. This needs to be the deterioration and satisfactory product offer around even order not establish with 25 strikes. And no other intelligence or opportunity offer to influence governance unions and concerns, but that will include the education, resources have been driven by economic issues burnout. 2 is compassion strike. The plan allows physicians to leverage power of the person and employers to demand tailored solutions. Bound 24. Burnout among health workers reducing epidemic levels with assuming bureaucratic tasks and benefits of living cloud to do issue with hospital insurance companies to overturn and make errors. Evacuation of the and increasing litigation and compassion that are part of the person imposed under the depend on data provided to the emails of news local doctors community care members to pray and could be open days and unions for employees man. The unions use EHR exclusively. Unions exist now, but doctors don't strike for fear of violating the Hippocratic Oath. EMR solves all when it comes to 21. Workers strike to be property among physicians just in seconds largest than they would never consider union because ethical conflict with the whole thing that recommended to patient that ensure jobs and physicians collective bargaining that both anonymous or recall system ethical level collective bargaining in conflict with the state of the question that action bonds and adjust to clarify the actions not mandate strikes physicians would choose to strike as a result of increased inspections. 3 is globally burnout imperils the physician scientist workforce farm 25. Laboratories given here like physician scientists for capacity within a remarkable plan and number and nearly have report consider leaving Christians due to primary reasons include burnout and stress. The plan enables them to innovate vaccines and health roads that are all 21. The plan have been integral to develop vaccines for drugs for the same our national representatives many things that work in new purchase vaccine and transform the clinic. State law is preempted in the ash pre-existing Hillbrand and with the members Congress as they stand down from the health and preempted rights granted by state laws.
You good?
Yep.
Okay. Most likely, normal means actor of the plan.
We're not specifying beyond the federal government.
The federal government. Okay. So, okay. What are all the things the plan mandates?
The plan allows physicians to bargain over electronic health records. It clarifies that that's a mandatory subject of bargaining as opposed to a permissive subject of bargaining. It allows independent physicians to bargain.
Independent bargain with who?
The evidence on the second advantage indicates that they would likely bargain with rural hospitals and with rural hospitals.
Okay. And they have leverage over rural hospitals. Why?
So the way that these rural hospital works is that they're contracted by rural hospitals to work there. So they can strike against these rural hospitals. They can do things like EHRs, which all decrease the.
Okay, I actually want to talk about the strikes part of that. So you've read a card on the one I see that says unions exist now, and the reason people don't go on strike is because they fear violating the Hippocratic Oath. If unions exist now, why does the plan incentivize them to strike?
So the argument is that they would do compassion strikes instead, which don't cause them to hurt patients, thus they don't violate the Hippocratic Oath.
What does that
They
mean?
would continue caring for patients, but they would enter records on paper instead of into the electronic systems, which prevents hospitals from gaining profits, but allows unions to slow hospital profits, unions or doctors
But
continue caring for patients.
The card that you've read on this question is like, physicians are terrified of unions because it violates the Hippocratic Oath. This is something that doctors feel ethically disgusting about. Like, what does the plan do to make unions attractive to physicians?
So I want to make this really clear. Okay, so doctors face an ethical dilemma right now because they don't want to hurt their patients every time they strike. Thus, the plan allows them to bargain over electronic health records. They're not hurting their patients because for a few days they enter records on paper. However, our evidence says that the hospitals, because of like profit concerns, would immediately.
Wait, so when they go on strike, like they're literally not at the hospital, right?
No, they continue caring for patients, thus they
So
don't violate
That's what I
Hippocratic
just
Oath.
said. They continue
You're
caring for
explaining this to all
patients.
across
The plan allows them to bargain over EHRs. The EHRs portion is the part that's key. Like they don't have to strike. They don't have to like go on a picket line and stuff. They can continue caring for patients.
They just don't enter
So the
records
only
into
thing the
system.
plan allows physicians to do is to write records on paper.
Bargain over electronic health records.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Our evidence says that they can bargain over health records by doing compassion strikes, which is when they continue caring for patients but enter
Okay.
records onto paper. I feel like
Okay,
we
sure.
think that's abundantly
Where does disease come from?
The ball evidence indicates that there's a bunch of factors that are making them more likely. We think things like deforestation, the melting permafrost, pollution, etc.
Okay, how does the plan solve global burnout of doctors?
So one, we don't think that doctors in other areas of the world are burned out in the same way that they are in the United States.
What part in the one he says that?
There's no evidence that suggests
Well,
otherwise.
we
We
also
also
see that more
assertion
importantly,
number one.
We
have
had
drugs.
innovation internally. So we said that our route evidence says that the physician scientist workforce is under threat because of burnout, but the plan enables them to innovate. So like innovate health drugs, which are key in the US.
Right.
Plus,
And
it
that's
doesn't
somehow
cause
solved
extinction if it doesn't kill everyone in the US.
6, solvency, 1, 2.
Wi-Fi is.
Are you two good?
Yep.
All 5 go?
I'm good.
The American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations on condition an escalating series of strikes and disruptions of logistical activities on the United States federal government strengthening collective bargaining rights for physicians, including mandatory bargaining over electronic health methods. Militant union activity is effective at pressuring the federal adoption solves the case and revitalizes militant labor activity that's taken. In 25 unions ran South call for labor movement to start from 70s political strikes in support of union rights. Also question whether unions accept the militancy rights to ensure others militant unions work to head modeling tactics that the counterparts embrace move faster than leaders pressuring action will include origins strikes and opportunities of legal risky union necessary to be seized and arrested opposition with the reason we can muster as least reinforcement militant unions by the leadership of the rest of the movement. For example, as follows: the union militancy rebuilds labor power to tackle corporate threats, including climate change and mass surveillance for goods. In 20, workers change motivation for profit to overcome a good energy workers fighting future work on rights for ecological, sustainable working class, reshape economy around sustainability. They were supported through CBRs and homes militant leadership that strong option reshape power states and shark waves such as building working national austerity movements that the opportunity for establishing mass politics for workers reconnect across supply chain and economic rights. Agencies by movements to facilitate alliances from geopolitics with the market service commissions to develop surveillance for the demonstration of greener national good. Global warming ensures multiple pathways to extinction. That's Spangenberg. In 25 effects of working overestimated hearts are arrested and wounds are against risk pressure make business improve possible education funding is suppressing new loaded reverse rail resource gears are conflicts around water supplies and life and long possible origins are said for mining. Entire food shell species should go last because the murder loss of all nature reduce free engineering creates conflicts thought and legislation. This growing next up is A-spec not specifying agents is voting issue is key to competition links to core mechanism based dissents. In education, next up is the House Freedom Caucus dissent. Iran supplemental will pass and includes modernization unrelated to Iran. House GOP unity is key and HFC fiscal hawks are tentatively on board now. Elkin 313 Iran House GOP second BBB House reps are hiding search military funding defense funding solely have a reconciliation possible whether we result the first Senate lighting over the House additional funding and never no guarantee will pass President talking about investment drawn on the ability better on supplemental spending analysis of these fiscal hawks and realistic reconciliation with the skeptics and GOP the majority to Iron unity reps need longer to move fast reasonable windows closing. The plan angers the House Freedom Caucus. March budget drama becomes a sequel. Hilton 25 GOP battleroom with people living from worker office embrace UBC defense of sharing reps are back in basic badge models agency programs bringing economics about played out of the budget even was more. But then people are setting more the game of age not during lots of Reagan rates be determined with YouTube leadership as flows of population watching money to attack worker beats. Keeping HFC fiscal service at bay is key to defense spending. Anderson. In 24 reps need to navigate different activities. Some of the spending play outside roles in House Liberty or more negotiation with the next spending hour likely to witness supports include modernization reps to government indexes or unified world leadership and navigate fiscal service and remain and really support your defense. That modernization is keep check extinction Korean. In 23 adopting your check question is more flexible force nation wants events and modernizing nuclear commercial center to reduce the risk of nuclear action now ensure critical during US soon face new nuclear arsenal part with risk of conflict. Using it is existential to US is over posture. Mostly to briefly stability with Russia and China conflict without carries potential for nuclear war. Next up is T interpretation and violation. Collective bargaining refers to negotiations over all terms and conditions of employment. The app is only EGR liberty. Anthony Reiner conducting NDT collective bargaining as women as employees negotiating in relation to all terms and conditions of employment. Report to British requiring discuss paid conditions court hill ordinary dictionary meaning must be read. Vote negative. 1. Predictability. Plain meaning in court decisions are most predictable to guide preparation. 2nd. Limit to open floodgates to any individual term or condition multiplied by sector substance. 3rd. Ground substance of rights. Dodge link term. Lodge or link term specific dissents. The next up is the states countered by the 50 state governments and other relevant subnational governments should facilitate mass members or organizations by granting them the right to organize private resources requiring democratic structures, especially authorize establishment of representative worker boards with divided appointing authority to strengthen collective bargaining rights for physicians, including mandatory bargaining over electronic health records with specific missions, administrative enforcement capacity, public participation, active state supervision, choose to adopt the workers' regulatory recommendations and coordinate enforcement, including share data over multi-state cases and full research and communication strategies. That solves and causes federal follow-on Salas badge. In the interest of we can legal order to use the SCB states have the authority to build power serve models of federal government, include wages of protection, industry, workers' council, California fast food establishment, and wage council, and include reps of workers and employees making develops and enforce group standards of our workers, states, also on the workers' standard wars, enforce workplace standards like sector sites, and also making power standards service model for the federal government, improve secure wages, benefit conditions, and reducing inequality, grow the middle class, not economic security. Next off is the backlash, just that the plan CBRs provokes corporate and state backlash to result in aggressive preemptions that turn the case that's Kim. In 20 corporate construction preemptions now like one of those two state hands road partners and public sectors on the right of way failing the right to work on the power union produce rights and be protected both worldwoods and absolute for was open rights to Republican states higher unionization lead to more and tackling what they perceive to strongly rights of protection making it easier for legislative to global work for preemption take away rights protection funds that native labor action take preemption limit city government labor rights with power than state both city and labor action only active localism solves existential risks. That's Marie. In 19 cities, contain the plan included by hunger, quality, sustainable cities, climate change, refugee solution, land, global officers, security, to reflect on most immigration, environmental access to the way the family will create so around cities, the biggest government for percent shows 70% cities control, left to make the right habit, and the position G20 takes well, covered inequality, covered innovation, real representing budget at all levels. Solvency, those solvency insurers won't negotiate, strikes fail, third party interests are not enforceable. In negotiation, Dyson 99. Bargaining scheme reflects on the lack of focus on the parties in fact protecting issues with their MCs and positions agrees another matter or being over such as part of an MCO and all feasibility influence the office of vanity bargaining separately than the results of regular where the results MCOs involve two processes with decisions to violate requirements of duty received only top on position on the ethical obligation not to strike fiduciary duty to the vacancy event already investing every position on the position ability to exercise the right to strike several years input as a weapon line position to like to question or for MCO's position because he demands to order receiving power to build purchase protect basic credit based into bargaining power positions using the legal position to raise financial well-being to predict the situation for emerging position basis the agreements across the CBS in terms of beneficial patients' interest, like law provides no means of patients, and to enforce the terms. Unions can't solve essential workers dying from disease or refusing to work during a pandemic. As per their evidence, the autonomy advantage, the plan allows physicians to tailor usage to their practice, which is the tag of when I see JAW. That means implementation is not standardized term. EHRs are crucial for pandemic mitigation, but that is contingent on standardization and interoperability. That's Shen. The 25 sharing today will have experience against COVID, EHR data begins about work victims against research development outcomes to process with dealing with EHR systems is crucial next is real-time notifications also recognizing distribution identify individual high risk integrating each other well as suspect predicting optimization risk and then identifying hospital regarding allocation versus EHR research data emphasize aggregation allowing large distance versus surveillance available and monitoring pandemic opportunities to develop enhanced probability and sharing. The status quo solves a technology summary. In the 25 AML research about every AI structure medical reduce one number from really probable to be made clinician after using sharp percentage reporting or best up to 4% this is for floor development systems effective AI scribes be meaningful use exemption already exists AOA between the ACA gets CMM authority for exception position to apply for hardship. MU does not cause burnout. That's Ontario 13 conclusion versus MU C controllers ONC stop for hardship policy policy MU less about challenge garbage more about MU2 new HIT system no bio risk that's Thorstead. In 24, the information patient reasons down access to virus pandemics independent pathogen need to be never be after one person the lethal and infectious health issues of human surprising resilience to pandemics only once these less risky food on one island threats no health response passing in distant travel restrictions the identified critical events sophisticated actors capability motivation access to skeptical access to virus things virus and regulation about our future techniques sophisticated like knowledge then activities that are important and high work for different survivor risk as to be clear that the not been cleared no physician shortage Emmanuel in 18 the news of shortage greatly saturated less than how doctors and needs is not complicated more than enough to satisfy all disease does not cause war poison in 20 Washington commentary first diseases serve customers to be helpful, particularly for themselves or to go not doctoral for ones that have severe cause and then epidemics cause war, sickness slows war to the advantage of people and they can afford to have objects to manage economies and the source of power, no impact to ABR by Caro. In the 21 properly estimation of consequences of the greater uses by the system affects customers just better uses that treated and passages risk have low pathogen needs to be for patients will never be back in the dark ages, partners in medicine are able to control the processes of infections can be here without antibiotics can be stated that the partners will reach time to leave these alarm assassination will be challenged on the absence of behavior more surveillance are coordinated for some patients with resistant trained mortality only cover 2% is highly probable resistant degrees. And among the landscape building control infections, burnout is low burg. In the 24 percent run is long issue of discovering the record of all for 2020 commercial milestone on the mountain burnout administration burnout. Moving after birth, corporation, the SQO solves APNJVs, that's curly. In 25 antitrust limited defense position of negotiation for the outside like antitrust stations or PNVs and PNV position control measure positions to like the government union determining on behalf of position to negotiate with health planners. B IPAs, that's you. In the 24 IPA level for the first kind of stand IPC trying to negotiate together with health planners to constructive civil union IPS is starting to negotiate contract decision not your straight strong pressure patients. All causes overwhelm the internal link, winning 1, 0 is the advantage. 1, limited access to education, lower compensation, no advanced medical tech, and distance from city Siegel. The drug position for potential broke by isolation of the next education, lower compensation, solving more across from the center for infrastructure, and city housing air for school and adequate facilities like advanced medical, but not technical food RDs for education, training, rural settings, and pipeline. Second, the cost of being employed, loss of credit, and high insurance. Albi. The 24 percent of the accidentally because of high cost because of when they see on performance rates and really difficult to improve working on the work also price and not stable work performance running on healthier suffering from any uninsured rates or high work uninsured no impact. 1, food STs are resilient. That's 121 years of benefits of life supplemental splashes adaptable to disruptions of vulnerabilities of disruption mitigated adaptable flexibility can propose splashes results disruption due to illness like adopting use of organization automation little less suggested for research of fair better the correct food system improving the reward and adaptable. Second, no food wars must be in 18 little measures producing corruption without conflict wars people having the lowest stress innovation opposition for violence is to have more complex leading to like corruption of credit forms any coverage is long meters and doesn't versus explanation major complex trends prove that high density megacities are reducing consumption resource inefficiency and improving everything that's after white and then NDT the liquid the sweetest cities growing has its tendency to pass crusaders all the best growing counties but the cities the best reference entity to like higher cities are taking higher medical standards for larger to help us work short term well prepared for all best growing cities migrate advice like FSC so like recommend national explanation for environmental high density for sustainable and economic environmental dimension low cost by treated water supply disposal waste healthcare and education work at healthcare and education.
Okay. Good for that, or good for cross?
Yep.
Status?
Conditional.
Okay.
Status was always a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, sorry. Also Judge K. Status quo is always lunch.
Okay. Confirming all officer rank.
Yep.
Okay. Want to talk about the localism dissent? The planned CBRs result in preemption that stifle localism. Doctors already have the right to collectively bargain. Why do you think the plan causes new preemptions?
Okay, so to the degree that you're going to go for like the plan is exactly the same as the status quo, I kind of think that's what Steve was getting at in 1AC Cross-X, right? Like, if it's true that the doctors never go on strikes, or the strike is literally just like they use paper instead of a computer, like the app's probably like somewhat irrelevant to global pandemics, global megacities, right?
I'm
And
not
to the
asking
degree that the
about
app
that.
actually changed shit, like yeah, we read a backlash they said. It's also
Wait,
like
but-
we'll make arguments about the perception of the plan being bigger than the effects. Like any labor changes anger the people. Like it's literally Alex's job to, they're like writing legislation.
what
that
Also,
Yes,
like,
yes,
the
yes.
1AC began from the position that was like, we have unions now, they're completely toothless. The plan makes it so that these unions become completely effective
Obviously,
in
preemption
disrupting
isn't
the
related to
leverage
how
of the
strong unions
big
are. It's
pharma
related to
industry,
whether or not
and they
the
don't-
collective
you don't think they would
bargaining rights exist in
respond?
the first place.
It's a backlash link. Like it's obviously not a link about like the more you solve, the more you link. Part of it is
That's fine.
perception.
I want to talk about the AFL-CIO counterplan. Does the counterplan fiat that AFL-CIO becomes more, like, gains more unions, or gains more members as part of its unions?
No.
No? Okay, what evidence says that, like, the 2% of the American workforce that's part of these unions is sufficient to force Trump's
2% of
bargaining?
340 million people.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of people. Also, the Kagan
The counterplan
evidence is
fiat's
the card that
340
says
million
AFL-CIO is important.
Wait, you said the counterplan fiat's 340 million people?
No. It fiats the AFL-CIO, but 2% of 340 million people is a whole lot of people.
Okay. I want to talk about the sectoral bargaining boards, the advantage counterplan. The 50 states should authorize establishment of representative working boards. What does this look like?
Well, worker boards so like you said, rural hospitals are probably the people that like independent gig doctors negotiate with. So probably in those hospitals, there will be a worker board. That worker board has say over things like EHR.
Okay.
It's not negotiation. It's just like establishing. It's like employment law. It's like the worker
Okay.
board. could
The
decide.
politics to that. Plan angers the HFC is in the context of the HFC not letting unions broadly, blue collar unions.
The card is about
Why do you think
labor.
this is about-
Also, like we've handled this. Like your 1AC started with unions suck now. App solved unions. If you want to after this 1AC concede that the app has nothing to do with unions, does not increase
Sure,
them,
but
makes doctors know better,
My question is
does
not,
not solve anything, then
That's
like
not my
great,
question.
we'll go
My
for
question is
counterplan
that-
NDT.
my question is that your card is in the context of HFC not letting blue collar unions.
No,
Why do you
it's
think that's
about
relevant
labor.
to
It says there's a battle brewing between pro-labor positions and a traditional libertarian wing that is pro-market. Pro-labor and pro-market are opposite. The app must be pro-labor. It is obviously not pro-market. It is an intervention into the market.
That's fine. We'll see what happens.
Switch. I'm also probably good.
Sure, does that have a Zephyrus? I remember. Oh, good choice.
Oh, I remembered that San Francisco is a pretty good laptop marketing, but it should probably strike more than a shortage price adjustment concern.
Is it not kicked in?
Not on Facebook Marketplace. Also not in San Francisco. I'm worried about this is the 5060 version. I bought it from like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And was selling it for $900 because he bought the 5070 version because he wanted to play racing games. That's the AI bubble.
It's your bubble in AI.
Sure.
I think I'm worried about like a catalytic converter style. Like people are gonna start leaving ramps.
I hope it crashes on Earth. Oh,
AI.
Yeah, James.
But how would I make sites?
I actually do give my shit to chat. I double check. I was like 7 like 10 like URLs to like start all this. Are you doing like specific instructions?
I haven't run this site in so long. I have like a little utility that runs in my taskbar where it selects the thing and then it like activates the site.
I still have one of those keys that we can use Claude.
Yeah.
Is that on your website? I remember buying a key.
If you have time. Okay.
10% per side. I'm sorry. Oh, actually, yeah. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Probably too slow for us.
Yeah, I got it.
Alright, well.
Actually, it takes 72.
Okay, so. Okay, everyone good for an order? Advantage 1, autonomy. Advantage 2, corporatization. Solvency. AFL-CIO counterplan. ASPEC. HFC-DA. T. The, I guess, state's counterplan. Locales DA.
Could you get the off case one more time? Sorry, yeah, it's on that. I was being honest.
AFL-CIO counterplay. ASPEC. HFC-DA. The T. State's counterplay. Locales. All right, you all get up to awesome.
Autonomy 1, what does he want? 1, straight turn. 1, EHR's not cause burnout. There goes absent doctor autonomy, causing onerous and requirements that breeds medical errors and prevents effective use that Shaw and Squires 2. They're not standardized 9%. 17, hundreds of EHRs with different capable of making one format. They're highly complex owners. You need more standardized and dangerous ability. 3, marketing laws, physician to dealer usage and practice, which gold laws. That's Shaw. Now, the Shannon scores of a research and test about the app. Technically solved. There's no evidence they're adopting the AI. They trouble burnout. Identify. Editing AI and advanced triple testing and providing AI. It's amazing to identify bias and unreasonable errors. Editing clear rate. It's actually burnout. 14% of use of after hours. MU exception is for physicians who apply for hardship, either way bargaining over EHR is the key, which I'll say later. We said EHR imposition causes burnout, not the MU requirements itself, which is above. Now, the disease impact and causes extinction. 1, directly next studies. Don't think people travel with guarantees global spread that's followed him. It outweighs new more and more cause extinction. This is less popular cities in southern hemisphere, one majority that's global. 2, indirectly. Secondary effects, let's say capacity more, 81 train, only like cost guarantee extinction, proud trains, and being the first time that's our evidence. Their defense is unresponsive. 1, it doesn't seem supervisors that overwhelm areas that's guaranteed by purpose broad globalization, APR, and missing flow. That's small. 2, it seems social healthcare, but physician burnout overwhelms resilience. Look out, no shortage evidence. It's from 18 pre-COVID. This is a disgrace. Says that, and our evidence from 25 says they're burned out now. Yes, more. 1, state capacity. Disease and road resilience necessary to manage existing conflicts. 2, new DDC plus. New command and control. 3, multi-lat, destroy trade, shut down barriers, greenlighting nationalism. 4, inequality, fuel poverty, which statistically drives conflict. Prefer our evidence, insights, comparison, and literature review. Burnout does spike ABR prescription causing extinction. Their defense does apply. They evolve rapidly, circumventing their safeguards. That's our evidence. Burnout isn't low now. 1, PCB, they're specifically burned out at critical levels. They're the last line of defense. The essential evidence are bottom line. 2, infinite threatening down the healthcare systems unsustainable at current levels. That's our price evidence. Biotech does cause extinction. Total drop. Defenses sue. Factors engineers one community that's U1 Washington the left ear after improving antibodies and healthcare resilience. And the impact culture also dropped. Disease depletes national resilience. Antibody extremism decline competition. Drug system is key. That's our Barnia evidence. Now, corporatization evidence. Scroll can't solve. The antitrust exemption can be exercised absent the line, which is the reason why it's key. Cross-line every counterplan. The IPSR isn't about independent physicians. There's no alt causes. Rural healthcare so large control the medical in order to disseminate medical tech. Our evidence is that physicians in rural areas ski and lower compensation is solved by marketing. Insurance costs are dampened by the plan. They're also irrelevant for our internally a burnout. It makes life inevitable. The job B, it costs billions a year and renders the economy unsustainable. That's singular. B, autonomy. Independent physicians provide affordable care and lower costs. Drop. That's hot right now. Food work on global rest. Nuclear by US rule. Olympians go that's as our executive defense is a global rise in destabilize every surrounding military. That's our crib evidence. Best views wrong. Even when no possible like crib says food is
addition to other factors that cause war, which their studies don't account for, and mega studies aren't good. Our evidence for post-haste assesses these rural communities holding out of care. There's no impact to any of this, and there's no uniqueness because it doesn't assume recent migration as per 25 evidence. Solvency, bargaining succeeds. When talking about allows physicians to tailor usage of practice results of root cause burnout, otherwise they'll hesitate voice conserve their job. Squires and T22 strikes. Doctors have the power of the person to supplement remedies to depend on insurance enforcement is relevant as well. It renders them operative by preventing doctors from choosing between physicians and patients with compact stress or key that's helping the cost, and that is not a link to the DA because physicians are striking now. It's just not effectual. Which is like the 3 scientists and revitalize the physician scientists workforce innovating distributing by vaccines. That's far hunter ground. Now there are other words. Durable fiat cells. We get a fiat, a functional NRV, else of course, and self-funded war side. Unions cancel dying, but they cancel morale plus marketing is yes, we're above. AFL pipeline. Firm do the pipeline. 20. Individual policy. You should recommend to proceeding into the advice by the rule. 2. Firm do the pipeline. The capitalist method of policy. Formulation. 3. Firm do the pipeline and the capitalist process over other issues. Certain tax capitalists must continue to tax selection for some research. The definite determination plan of voicing line. Independent. So we want to see 4. Firm do the pipeline. The plan should is an immediate general source. So 4. So this for what is expected. 5. Only the plans clear statutory exemption prevents litigation powers. 1. The actions provided by university law. FPC is not clear. Have enough for the physician who desire to love with work. There's still room for so interpretation of factual that are going to revision was simplified. They law broad guidance and self-marketing and reducing legislation. Case solved. As Rachel says, rural hospitals unregistered and supply that outweighs the code. Before, people know risk of one with the University of China, but left with researchers and enterprise policy, U.S. will need is able to apply to be demands while dealing with emergency disasters intentions. It can't solve strikes for life, result in failure. Group 17. Search for units and percent of workforce senior is an all-time low 6% general but meaning other participants of review change around or not. These systems try to take by the hard organizing is also suggests a recurring law progressive community cut the card and community 7 cancel the benefit. Nothing says workers will want strike to disrupt the environment over the government. These support council and what affordability that was in terms uniqueness, which we'll read later. 8 the USFT's resolution actor and can control private action, which is unpredictable and illogical. This is not an opportunity cost. Just by dropping the T for deterrence. ASPEC, it's an RBI for slop because it's infinite regress and afterbase and normal use checks. Conditionality is windshield because it's used to see we can't get straight turns and use clash. If you see the there's no link. Unionization is unpopular and distinct from other sectors for doctors added in conflict 1. Well, unions are testing physicians incentives, so I guess it's sensitive to the doctors how the cost do not have their complaint seen as for doctors that from other employees for exception of the world doctors. These will opposition insurance companies and HMOs will fight back. It won't pass McCarthy 319 sending effort. Wrestling confronting serious health as hospitals expand prices rise at 11% take in a war funding could be 200 as cool as up. It was a controversial debate. They reconciliation efforts were both pursuing not by work liability for medical decision ahead of cut the card admitters and factors from base 24. Doctors are good near resources about doctors seek their patients and losing baby use by the parts of the place with the vital people drop fire back at doctors. You're either with this or you're not. Doctors have shifted toward the Democrats military is stronger than average. I mean this high over 25. After years of deployment, the American military is renewed under Trump. Army is over 95% of the way to 25 the goal of new recruits momentum. Unlike anything in a decade, nation strong to armies exceed for pretty close period. Supporting history protection rates give this 40% equally goals that the armies closely held and finished programs including so and impact on everyone activation by 32, cut the card at 32, TCDRs, we meet a function plan classy EVARs are subject of mandatory bargaining. They can already bargain over other terms and conditions, and thus the plan strengthens it. That's valid. That's actual. It's explicitly codified by Congress. That's the red B potentially. The words of the plan that's most objective counter updating rights or independent contracting is strengthening because it prevents responsibilities on FT. To set the workers' right to apply with bargaining Congress was updated right to bargain to independent contractors and voices that rights of class do not. Protection 3 overloading their intermittent suicide workers, active doctors, and the office waits by states and employment law. It turns grad living only. It turns grad for living influence outweigh counter only our 5 predictability. We say see person and our was strengthened in content strengthen means expanding the scope. However, 98 Congress intended bargaining to strengthen the right law to then limit the scope of reading supported by the Supreme Court. Feasibility and top limits first race nowhere. No offense functional limits. Let's say the process employment law and national limits stand out for about legal ideas and process self-ground. 6. Cross-line all theory from above, perm both shields, 2 perm to the counterplan legal issues 16. When a company system that divides by parts of the central government, and the same 3 perm to the counterplan, then the plan proceed to spec model 1, after the perm system was not time for cross-line from above, 4 projected uniform fiascos, which is like Germany, deficits for cross-line competition, and non-USFT fiascos for joining the plan that was above. 5 preemption, and liability cannot be regulated by states that's still right. 6 antitrust, counterplan results ensues with regulatory oversight that unrest policy, FCO2. Then it's with legislation that would create antitrust, except for efficient collective bargaining, and as respect to the consumer policy, solar bills before state legislators would constitute prosecution as for antitrust. Just not satisfied, state action to override the national policy under the doctrine statement not authorized private parties to violate antitrust official must supervise the anti-competitive content. The FTC whose regulatory oversight is insufficient. 7 no follow-on only durable fiat just because the White House was on every level and cross-line CBR's key for the case it answers everyone for why they would functionally fill in locales. Physicians can already market, and preemption has already happened. That's Hilbert Magic. Plans also prevents unsustainable migration in cities. Also, they collapse, which is not the case. They can't solve the climate broadly. It's why cities like the globe, which they can't influence. There's no slow over argument. House Trump's NLB makes it inevitable. His pro-union nominations confirmed. Round 25. Nominees backing labor. He sat on the House subcommittee unions and politics, empty, so and all of to labor. Anything else?
Nothing says cities want to pass the plan.
Nothing says cities want to pass plans, so won't get preempted, and if they read new evidence, we get to say something about that. Okay. Independent physicians are independently key to decentralizing healthcare that solves cyber-attacks as New Roth and Hishman, which threatened the entire healthcare sector that was in the 1EC, and fiscal healthcare crises, colossal global governance, exchange chambers. To see the most amount of global system was premised on economic strong U.S. among healthcare efficient U.S. will be overburdened as movement gender changes. 80% GDP with more health loss for defense as emerging tech comes online, black petroleum global with dangerous bio 320 robotics big data to introduce synthetic and nanotech that's outstanding of boosters. The past week without governance, dog eat dog talk and economic times. See the U.S. become stressful institutional polarity. It evolves into bipolarity with counter against the conflict would be inevitable. Their urbanization impact is around later 2012. Pennsylvania most significant territory existed urban monsters will grow because the world become havens for criminal networks, major depletions, service laboratories where all the events war was harmful. International security, our drug race hunger will definitely erupt, bringing violence with the nature's full over routers, rapidly spreading. Go back to the last DA and thumpers. The link is down to the doctors in already market and the Unionization Commission will start making physician leading unit increase adoptions for more than 40,000 in 2025. You start getting the real for pre-organizing and Sorry, what you said was that last thing on?
That was on the look.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you send
Yeah.
the
So,
like
and then
all
I
of
read
it.
the red Paul.
Yeah, Paul discard the add on the package.
Okay. I think it's not the okay. And it is sent.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Alright, let's start on the HFC tab. The link return card that you read, it says it's about public sentiment seems strongly against it. You read a dissent about the House Freedom Caucus?
Our
public?
part is certainly responsive. Your argument is that the HFC doesn't like the plan because it's perceived as a pro-labor policy. Our argument is that doctors are perceived differently than other unionization activities. Specifically, people think that they're elites, which is an answer to the warrant that the HFC wouldn't like them because it's perceived as being pro.
Why? Why does them being elites mean like I don't know, having been to med school mean that they aren't still
Our argument is
unionized
that,
or
like,
striking?
Like pro-labor policy refers to things that help working-class Americans and helps bolster unionization as it's traditionally conceived, which is basically people in manufacturing industries, Teamsters, things like that.
Okay.
That's
I
certainly-
want to talk about something that you said on case. On solvency, you said the AF. That doesn't mean the AF links to the dissent though, because doctors are striking now. It's just not effective. What does that mean? Doctors are striking now?
Well, yeah, so obviously doctor strikes exist in some limited capacity and unionization is increasing, which is the card we read in 2AC on the DA.
Card on doctor strikes now?
We said unionization activity increasing and they want to strike.
Card for wants to strike?
I mean, we can read that in the 1 year to make an argument
Okay,
about
does
this.
that-
Like unionization activity
I'm
implying
a little
strikes.
confused though, because it seems like if doctors were to go on strike, that would be like pretty bad for health, or if they were burnt out, that they would want to go on strike, but they aren't doing that, no?
Like, yeah, but you don't have an internal like compassion strikes would trigger that internal like.
Huh?
So I'm confused about this.
No, I'm confused about solvency now, because you said
Okay.
that doctors are striking now, which seems pretty bad for like pandemic
Wait,
response.
but doctors aren't compassionately striking, which we said is
hell
key.
does
They're
that
not doing it over
matter?
EHRs. Like compassion strikes are a term of art and they're not doing it over EHRs. We said those are key.
Okay, hold on. Doctors are literally leaving their jobs now and striking, which you said in the 2AC. But that doesn't
No,
cause
okay,
pandemics
wait.
because they
Few
aren't
things.
writing
So
on
we read a
paper
card
instead
that
of computers.
unionization. So we read a card that unionization is up for doctors.
No,
which
the
does
2AC
refer-
said doctors are striking now. You don't get to like takesy backsies, all right? 2AC, I have it floated.
Like-
Everybody heard it. I saw people's eyebrows like furl. You said doctors striking now, all right? The app says doctors should strike less, and instead of actually striking, the thing that solves pandemics is when they write shit down on paper instead of type it into a computer. Is this a joke?
Like you're just like incredibly misconstruing everything I said. Like obviously the plan is
Please
just
reconstruct.
right. Okay, so a few things. Well, I want to clarify what I meant by striking now. There's increased bargaining activity that is occurring in the medical industry. Okay.
But they're not
The
striking.
plan, what?
Despite increased bargaining and unionization, they aren't striking. Is
Like
what
the
you're
strikes are
clarifying?
ineffectual was our one example.
So they are striking, but they don't work.
Yes.
What card says they are striking?
The one is the evidence, I think, the Bowling et al. Evidence.
Okay,
Clarify
so
that there's
doctors
legal
are currently
uncertainty.
leaving their jobs as doctors because they are burnt out. That is a claim that the 1AC
No,
Bowling
they're
evidence
not
makes.
leaving their jobs as doctors.
What the
Why do
hell
we
is
have
a
to do
strike
that
then?
to strike?
What the fuck is a strike if it's not
Wait,
going to work?
by leaving their jobs, do you mean like quitting?
Like
or
not going to work, as in striking?
Yeah, some doctors, but
Okay.
unionization does.
Yeah. Well, no, and then they went back and read like unionization by now. Or whatever.
Yeah.
I figured I should see if you prefer that way. Drop. Okay. Sure. You. How's the shower that and preparing according to seats.
How do folks feel about stopping prep if Steve's computer is not loading?
It takes some tech time.
No, we should have done that a minute ago. All right, wait, we had 5:33. Oh, now it loaded. Great, okay, awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, keep going.
Stop at 436.
Sorry, is that 436 left?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am 72. It should be safe. For an order while we wait.
Yeah.
Okay, that order is the state's counterplan, ASPEC, the AFL-CIO counterplan, the backlash DA, solvency, 1, 2.
I still haven't got the.
Yeah, no worries. Very nice. Kind of bad. I'm good. Everybody's good? Cool.
Yeah.
States can see the permutation just a test competition. There's no cross applications because we're not going for counterplay, but the ASPEC counterinterpretation counter was good. Counter-interpretation, we did one neck to F backing. Inside bias means the next means more conditional accuracy to have reactive strategy. 2, crossing debates, multiple roles. Challenge you have to sift through information and make tactical in-round decisions, which increases critical thinking skills. 3, argument innovation. Debaters will introduce new strategies. Unless able for lack option, alternatives overburden neck research. 4, logic, prove the counterplan is bad, does not prove the plan is good. No offense. 1, condoms, inevitable new apps. Apples like towards proving explanation. 2, diminishing margin utility. Infinite condoms, unstrategic because arguments inevitably overlap. 3, this was bad. Listen to we see determinable block strategy. And there's no community consensus of what it even is. Even if they define it, there's no RBI because it's stupid. Now the AFL counterplan concede the permutation just to test competition, but explicitly concede that strikes fail. The 2AC card says that the percentage of unionized employees are at an all-time low of 6%. Strikes would take months, are impossible to organize. There's no overnight trigger for a real social movement, which zeros the case. They don't have a distinction between how simply being able to write records on paper is sufficient to resolve all of these structural problems and means all of their means the case is literally zero now. But U.S. and LNG is not heated geopolitics. We got in 24. No new LNG would ever be approved. This would be low. Europe is watching gas sources, which are energy source to be 60% below Asia. And solar costs are falling so fast. Gas are in free fall. Demanding construction renewable energy and efficiency. Solar was the cheapest in Asia. Now the backlash GA right to work laws destroy democracy on a local level. Fiber and 25 RTW laws reduce equality of electoral democracy. States receive authority over running elections. Authorities only increase after court decision and Shelby County, which federal oversight was disabled. Or TW to provide financial resources for weakened membership after the extremely democratic accepting creating expansion. RTW laws reduce unions' capacity to provide information when to maintain civic norms through social networks. Democratic decline cause extinction. Beat followed on 23 totalitarian more work with less cooperative and inhibited progress. Totalitarian bad forecasting risk extinction region wars. Miscount particularly both for totalitarian universalization raising chance of WMD always require co-ops such as pandemics, climate, AI, or biotech bottlenecks are important where risk of locking in such as AI, space, life extension, or surveillance. Totalitarians would risk extinction. No new answers are there's no new answers because our turns case argument was explicit in the 1 and C. It's equivalent of the block dropping and impact block decisions are based on that and allowing 1 year responses create sandbagging and decreased clash. I will explicitly concede that there's no impact to urbanization, which zeros the impact. We have an add-on now that is encapsulating all their internal link. Now their answers are terrible. The first argument was that unions exist now. 1, if this is true, then you could vote negative presumption because there's no real internal link for why the plan is sufficient to overcome it. But this does not assume the scope of the plan. The plan is perceived by corporate and state interests. Pro-worker drop the 1 and C link. They respond to strengthen labor rights by passing strict preemption laws to restrain labor. The plan builds political support for countering action in other areas like paid leave, minimum wage, and increased right to work restriction for candidates or causal analysis to strengthen labor rights and is designed to exclude other possible variables. And it's empirically proven. Growing organizing and labor successes are a trigger for anti-labor state responses. Now, powerful opponents respond to the plan's pro-worker with a counter-offensive demanding pro-business legislation opposing workers, which alone turns the case method in 21 of new labor becomes all powerful opponents weaken or undermine implementation budgets and regulation highly contested support is targeted. Reports of the supposed harmful bills. New legislation introduced these tests and maybe backing in 60 and watering down the law. Now, the next argument was that preemption is already happening. State preemptions are limited now. Adoption of harmful state laws is slow labor and has slowed and labor localism is robust. Localism is strong now, and the limiting preemption shall intelligence 25 across the country. Local governments are taking the lead on tackling great challenges to protect public health, workers' rights, reducing equity, respond to environmental threats. Coalitions to stop, limit, or overturn abuse preemption no more than it does the states. The next argument is plan solves. It's relevant because we can see the impact to the thing that they thought that was an impact. Climate change globally was never our impact, and no spillover. They dropped the no spillover argument. They dropped the internal link argument that corporations and state governments respond to the plan by creating preemptions on other forms of labor organizing, which explicitly makes it impossible to necessarily resolve. Now, the next 2 arguments are entirely irrelevant. M or B does not make any sense. Our arguments about backlash at the state level are 1 and 2 cards about ALEC drafting bills to necessarily offset the cost of the plan's pro-worker agenda, which obviously demonstrates that there's no reason why having the NLRB be pro-Trump or pro-union confirmation at the federal level would necessarily thump this. They say nothing cities want to pass and new means they get new answers. You do not get new answers because you do not answer the DA correctly in the 2AC. Sandbagging that causes sandbagging, which makes it impossible to develop in-depth offense. But there's every piece of uniqueness evidence that says localism is strong now and avoiding preemptions. It's reasons why cities are necessarily resolving anti-labor in the status quo. It means there's only a risk of our offense. Add-on will be in the 1 and R. Now, the solvency page. Physician union fails. They're prohibited from striking, and the CPRs are unenforceable, and there are insufficient penalties for non-compliance, which is D's, and it's specific to physicians. 20C Crossix was terrible on this question at best. The plan still forces independent physicians to work while they're not getting paid, since the only explanation of the strikes they're doing would be writing records on paper instead of electronically, which makes burnout and disease inevitable. Now, the autonomy page. The status quo solves burnout, virtual scribes solve paperwork, and seamlessly integrate EGR. This is not some tech with promise but no implementation. They're ubiquitous now. Our evidence cites a first of its kind study on burnout reduction in AI scribes. The tech is here being used, and its effect on burnout has been massive. Just on 25 AI-driven scribes on significant reduction of physicians in burnout. According to the study of 2 large healthcare systems of fighting drone strikes, there were 1,400 physicians use FAMIA. Documentation technology was associated with a 25% absolute reduction in burnout prevalence. Freezing a physician with their keyboard physician tells them they have their weekends back to discover the joy of practicing medicine. There's literally no other intervention or field that impacts burnout to this extent. AI solves test range 25. AI program that medical notes, the same physician type of paperwork, daily paperwork is a cause of physician work, but that program significantly reduces the AI system, helps doctors. But if they increase paperwork for the people to do during a strike while they're not getting paid, obviously the plan increases or has no effect on burnout. I mean, there's just no internal link. Now, the supposed solves exceptions, meaningful use exceptions already exist. Even if you have to apply for them, they don't have a card that says that applications are slow or backlogged. And high tech doesn't require doctors to use electronic records and incentivizes it. Dottie and Twitter, the mandate between high tech motivates healthcare organizations to implement EMR High-Tech Act includes an incentives also to authorize Medicare and Medicaid to provide payments. Healthcare organizations not implement meaningful use of C reduction reimbursement up to 5%. They will also be on extended problems. Now, there's also just too many all causes. The very practice of clinical medicine is stressful, making burnout an inescapable problem, which is gentlemen, even if you zero HER-related stress, you won't put a dent in overall burnout. And 24, reducing HER-related burnout by clinicians addressing the burnout directly requires more comprehensive approach to contributed burnout of beyond HER to encompass work-life balance interventions may not directly translate to a reduction in burnout. Unionization does not decrease physician burnout below chart in 21. Physician units burnout success through personalization or emotional exhaustion. 5,701 residents complete survey units were not associated with improved burnout. It starts all the way back in med school in Montgomery. And 14, for physicians burnout is not the only way that medical education organized and reinforced it. Healthcare works burnout should be viewed as an obvious outcome that are developed within medical education. Medical students are actively shaping their professional idea, learning about consistent with formula and hidden aspects that influence medical students' professional identity. Medical schools remain inclusive, the best way to promote and evaluate professionalism. Now, other countries massively thump. They have burnout issues, and some rates are a whole lot higher than the U.S. None of their impact scenarios are contained to the U.S. When cross-sects said that disease comes from permafrost thaws and deforestation, which happens in literal other continents, which the plan cannot possibly access. The 2AC make no appeal to consensus or relationship between scientists, so any new one-hour extrapolation should be new and stuck up your flow. There's no shortage of doctors now, which takes out the warrants of burnout, makes healthcare sustainable, which is manual. The math makes no sense for their internal link manual. And 17, all of our calculations we leave all the speech to our physicians to fulfill non-clinical responsibilities. Even with these records, estimates make the back suggest there are more than enough physicians in the United States. There are just under 500 million visits per year. A single calculation reveals the U.S. requires 208,000 physicians. We have more than enough adding part-time physicians for the support of finding access problems. More the result of how healthcare system deploy these physicians market at physician. Now, there's no biorisk impact. The pathogen has to impact to everyone be undetectable, lethal, and extraordinarily infectious, and circumvent basic public health strategies like quarantine or social distancing, which is Dorsat. Its defense to pandemics and war from disease are abscess. Both fail to be existential for the same warrants. Bioterror has the added hurdles of no motive and no knowledge among actors. Even the high-risk folks are at 2%, but there's a dozen warrants for why that is even too high. The 1AR has to respond to each Dorsat and 23 high estimates. High-risk 43% will provide a little argument for estimates. High-risk estimates are insufficient to the pathogen. We need to reach everyone. Be undetectable, personally lethal, and infection, circumvent basic public health measures. Human suppressing resistance to the call of pandemics with catastrophe throughout all history. There's only one instance in which disease, extinction of species, right leg on a single island, everything must come together all at once. Biological class can be a public health response as simple as masking, social distancing, travel restriction, hard to find critical examples of actions with capability and motivation by being appealed or inscrutable. They involve far off future, market at far off future. Bioweapons are wrong. Double blind. The Walsh evidence says 2 people can engineer superviolence, and millet evidence says this tech is widely accessible. And there's a lot of organization with motive. If those arguments are 2, then 1, burnout's inevitable because doctors will spend every waking moment countering a biothreat, and 2 will be in vain because some groups will develop weapons so deadly and surpassive modern medicine are defensive lies because it's just about being able to respond to disease. Now, the second advantage, rural healthcare is solved now. First, to make up for physician shortages and hospital closure, rural communities have shifted to non-traditional healthcare, things like telemedicine, streamlining physicians, licenses, NJs and PAs, J1 and H1 visas, and community education has solved the gap with the Siegel. Second, independent physicians in rural communities are high now. It's Bernard, 80% of primary care physicians are independent in rural communities, pushing back the narrative of a healthcare desert. There's no food impact. They dropped its resilient. There's no evident lack of bargaining power for independent physicians will be sufficient to break the food supply chain to last infinity years disproved, but there's no impact. 1 confounding variable. Zero scholarship supports the notion that food is an independent trigger for conflict. Politics, economics, and other variables are larger indeterminants of backlash, and there's no will because food shocks makes countries more likely to focus inwards or increase imports, which is best be, even if they're right that it causes mass discontent, it causes lash outs, and countries on the brink of starvation are less prone to start war. I'm good with that.
Wrong. None of the backlash cards are there, and there's like a bunch of the AFL-CIO cards.
Oh, my bad. I probably just forgot to hit save. Okay, I just reset it.
When do I get it? Just got it. Okay, gotcha. Ready?
Mhm.
Okay, terms case, could you just explain the word for why right to work clause? Yeah, terms case, could you explain it?
Which terms case?
So the one you did on the overview, like link terms.
The link is about backlashing to labor power. So in the world of the plan, it makes it more likely that state legislatures and people in like the state process.
Okay, link wall top. The plan is perceived by corporate and state interests as pro-worker. Why?
Because it increases the right to strike against big pharma.
Right, but you dropped the link term. That's fine. On the other page, the autonomy advantage. The COVID stuff. the healthcare sustainability evidence, there's no shortage of doctors now. Then you read two pieces of evidence from 2017 before COVID. Why is it credible?
Why is it I mean, like, I think it is an even if question. It's either they are resiliently locked
It was
in.
9 years ago. Okay. The bio risk impact. Actually, that's fine. Let's start on the corporatization stuff. So actually, no, AI scenario first. You read a lot of evidence that AI-driven scribes could reduce physician burnout.
No.
What ev says they're
Our
not
evidence,
doing it?
our evidence says it is like explicitly solving the issue now.
Okay.
Like our court says.
Read the line.
the-
Read the line that says.
Oh, let
physicians are
me
talking AI.
read the line. There was literally no other intervention in our field that impacts burnout to this extent.
Wait, that's about the study, not that physicians are using it.
Use of ambient documentation technology
No,
is associated with a
no,
21%
wrong.
absolute reduction in burnout
It's a
prevalence.
survey. Okay, that's fine.
I know.
Tech is scalable quickly. That's fine. The advantage to SQO solves. I understand you read evidence that practices thrive. Wherever you read evidence, those practices are financially sustainable, which is our term thing.
How do you make them financially sustainable?
Wonderful. Okay. The SQO solve stuff.
Okay, I guess.
Clearly you didn't answer the internal thing. The SQO solve stuff.
I guess.
Your Siegel evidence is like from 4 years ago. Again, why is this credible about physician shortages and hospital closures?
Well, 4 years ago, if you recall, was the global pandemic, so it
Right,
assumes.
but it's
Oh
still
shit!
4
6 years ago. Math. That sucks. 2022. We were still in the pandemic.
All right. We're gonna take the rest of that.
Damn. Numbers.
June 28th. It's like right after I gave my 2-year bonus. And that was on the live stream though.
I don't think anyone from Big 12 is watching the doubles of the NDT.
That's true. I mean, there were some former debaters
Well,
that worked there.
that
It doesn't matter.
sucks.
I mean, everyone knows. That's just how the system works. It's not even like, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm excited. I like 2 months before like I start law school, so I'm just going to go on vacations and chill. Except I'm working at the EDI, actually.
Where are you headed?
Going to Italy with my family.
Nice.
Before camp, and then after I have a road trip planned.
Stop press.
And I want to go to China.
Sorry?
Road trip and then China.
That was a minute, yeah? So 6:18?
Yeah, 6:18, sorry.
Kind of worried I'm going to get screwed by the airplane prices and buy the tickets and the war keeps going.
I would get on that.
I'm sending in. The order is the localism dissent.
Sorry?
The order is the localism dissent. Backlash, we call it backlash, they call it localism. Just the add-on at the bottom and then a run.
Sorry, was there something before backlash?
No. Just me clarifying it.
Well, yeah, just space.
Sorry?
I haven't found it yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, just
Good?
No.
No. Are the 5 of you good?
I have 1 second.
No. Okay.
Wait, just got it.
Everybody? Lovely. The physical health add-on has no internal link. They've not clarified what it is, but debt is record high. That's who saying in 22 the business shown that this rest of the additional record number highlights the already accumulation of accumulation as of code related side records not meeting fiscal duties, but there's no impact regardless. Scrutiny to 24 shouldn't about that with you. Even if cars about head is rent stores coming to work, things also cosmetic mention more percent is a big number, very species of organization fiscal. Sustainability to the extent that has problems with revolution radicalization, the GOP reject the modulus impact in this scenario. Our terminal, the Iran decided it outweighs and turns the case first. It's triad negative U.S. insurance collapse makes distinction inevitable from adversaries like China, NOCO, and Iran. And patterns like space, cyber, conventional, multi-theater war, and unintended escalation. Second, it's faster than the Afro impact is an actual capability plan. But the signal sends that to adversaries which greenlights them. That's WP26 around and more of structure repair by channels, all the new defense work, chief soon really cycles, also need more money, your future investment board is all of their other funding for chemical munitions. Third, empiric 70 years are neg on the rest of insurance stopping nuclear use. But COVID alone empirically denied most of the pass fail as bioterror attempts to decades of antibiotics not causing resistance. World collapse since 08 not escalating, and food shocks like the Ukraine war and US droughts. And global urban migration all disprove the case. The link alone turns solvency, financial everything. 20% of pollution, legislative process, work pollution, after 0, etc. Concessions such as soft-launch production penalties, reduced boundaries, instead of enforcement various exemption, carbon supported, multiple leadership, enforcement practice, by aging, movement, enforcement, trial authority, agencies under recent legal exchange, by ruling from judges. It also it turns advantage one. It turns preparedness. Nobody's concerned about protecting doctors or quarantines. When we're at war, and other countries also stop monitoring bioterror and ABR2. It turns advantage two. The wrong thumbs food. That's shipping 318 and wrong trade global immigration fertilizer shortages and global security. You don't have to work there. Usually fertilizer export will be the completely high exports from plants and shorter clock hours. The halted resource plant new country from the dashboard. The area prices surge. It also turns the energy price add-on, dude. 3 the fighting grounds and around strikes and finding support in place. My top energy production will all risk high voltage stored by drones with the politics of the economy close 4% drops 5% up 4% closer to shares and raise up 8% person say that 500 number. Person also production drug strikes and some isolation of the market reaction with price significantly higher. It turns a fiscal health add-on, dude. 3 the higher prices due to inflation because the real supply you want to for rare last year by recession market inflation and 4% 3% was really taking the price target. That would be federal possible for cuts. It also turns the terminal impact because it's LIO, but military failure causes it. The bill solves the Iran war to solve all these turns case arguments. Perkins 26 hours apply for no national capacity. Ultimate Congress authority power the person will knows by banks involved in other customer trouble. No makers really comes to war wrong side to pull the funding. To answer the cross application from Keynes, yes, nuke war causes extinction. That's roughly 20 multiple new catastrophe new war only infrastructure work with their fight and clear to get more professionals and new news produce radioactive applications of 30 million tons like our forwarding cities smoke. No left out reach class like the river data reach temperature range by precipitation. The kind of small completely smaller over to produce peak levels and also 50% everyone see storm looks up structure reduction later 4% longer local certification class move. The number to build average conflict between nations of provision conflict consolidation mass salvation remove less war on the law understand you contain the national security of all you should wear impact as extinction even if it is slightly less McDonald. And then you weather should problem the national make difference to 5 billion world food temperature growth equal urgency advantage. For 2AC1 was the plan is popular. Our link is about the HFC and the act of zero evidence that assumes that deficit hawks to test pro worker policies. And we'll backlash. Here's more proof. That's Group 24 rights to do possessions, including a workforce, scholars, sure, fully offset the person rights to take the labor act, right to claim insurance, worker paid for those which don't have to you contract group focus leverage against workforce council majority enemies protecting them. The request and how many percentages in line with the principle of truth because just expecting the link term part is wrong. One, not about the HFC, even if doctors are perceived as elites that and who shouldn't get higher pay. The act still increases union power and strikes within the HFC, which the HFC perceives. Second, the link is also about intervention into the market, which the plan certainly is by adding a subject of marketing. So still links. Third, this evidence of reason the doctors won't exercise their CBRs, which is inserted. 2AC2 was going to pass. It's wrong. The House is key because the Senate followed program 3. 20 tribunals for 200 billion jobs in time grants to the House on board of these reconciliations and this which is why the House is the answer they can win. The Justice Senate does follow House is leave. I understand the leadership of reconciliation. Preferred is internal Sammy Arlington, who is a House budget chair or a House budget committee chair. It will pass because the fiscal and defense talks are loosely cooperating but reversible. Brooks 366 ratification sometimes voting for the pressure runs on the vote because they're sort of calling reconciliation. Now they are such a focus great house for Action Johnson New York board seconds. That in our first book has to be relevant on reconciliation with defense support. Will be the catalyst of events for Hawks like North Dakota people versus events for we're going to the movement you need. In particular, we control HFC uniqueness because the 2C had zero amount that's punchable. Using 322 bit hospital rest getting hospital because they have one of the not working with Marshall is first to on the warrant in the card if they won't use reconciliation. It's wrong. Iran is unique and rally Republicans who are going to see skeptical, which is want to see Elkin. Iran is T of the D and they'll use reconciliation. That's come forward 325%. You like that that move to reconciliation purposes, make sure there's actually funds for the military momentum is high. That's surely in 22 nation we're not saying PvP time is long as maybe the limit pass best spending for Iran apologies company logistics to best reconciliation crossing border center will cover better version that enforce prefer F coding Arrington. That's version 26 really reconciliation and probably going to be illegal because Mr. Curtis what there's supplemental. 3C3 was a plan fractures the base. This card is a link. It proves that MAGA hates the plan. So the HFC probably does too. It says the doctors are funding the Dem party, which obviously would not make the HFC happy. They did not explain the implication to this card, and we did. So there's no re-clarifying. It also obviously answered the link term because they made the mistake of reading a link, so they should not get to go for no link. Now, the last argument was defense spending. This card is from a military family member who loves their siblings, and their qualifications are, quote, opinion contributor. But the defense is too old. It assumes U.S. superiority, which is recently eroded due to overuse in Iran. Once we go Winchester, it greenlights adversary aggression that's correct when 20 scattered we so one imperative Iran including jeopardize the thing we don't have sufficient votes for that task. Not the same as a China situation below just going Winchester solution. There are elegant evidences that they'll ask for entirely new military system build beyond what we need in Iran, which our evidence doesn't assume. And credence says that new systems are needed to deter adversaries. Impact doesn't apply. That's correct when 20 we need to go to Winchester, but against the anybody in the situation where immediate action deliveries munitions like measures of the conspirators of the efficacy of where they're trying to jump through the window, immediate actions are necessary. There's no contradiction. U.S. support for munitions deters adversaries. That's Roper. In 2016, after the U.S. self-prepared world, we go versus just favor from U.S. from just in time. Also, very larger stockpiles are mitigate for risk for race and conventional conflict vision. But you can produce munitions that skill critical reserve. Supplemental is key. Defense use are insufficient. And words key to munitions, which our evidence is about, and theirs is not. Wall Street Journal. In 2016, from all weapons and national priority, more defense funding goes to that right. There was a lot of defense 26 funding on the full language short bills for defending munitions, so really needed critical munitions that are still unfunded.
No, 4 minutes of problems. Yeah, I'm sending it right now. It's sent. Let me look at where it's good.
I'm ready for an order.
The order is the solvency page, advantage 1 autonomy, advantage 2 corporatization, the backlash to that, the HFC to that, and ASPEC. Is anyone not good?
I'm not.
plan does solve our evidence is far more contextual. The plan isn't just physicians writing records on paper. The evidence indicates that slows hospitals' revenues to a crawl and that a strike would be over in days because every hospital would be forced to see physicians' unions failing generically is not specific to the act, because our argument is that physician unions do fail generically, but rather we're arguing over EMR specifically because that allows compassion strikes, which their ones don't assume because physicians don't want to participate in normal strikes because they perceive the Hippocratic Oath as being too grungy for them, but they want to do EHRs, the first advantage. And Fiat also solves everything, which is a considered argument suicide. The AI stripes argument is new in the Twinsie and they read new cars justifies the response to the triple burnout goods in all 25. Editing and after triple text and supernated outputs and having significant price and operating errors, editing makes 40% use of average of cars. What? They won't be used in practice and to private autonomy to plus at all 25. And everyone trying to must be validated continuous vertical is able to represent primary polluters are responding to the volume market at volume. Yes, and now the next argument is that if they increase paperwork during your strike, they won't get paid is not our argument. The argument that the strike would be over in days, which means that it's irrelevant because doctors wouldn't lose too much revenue. Quo stalls is wrong. MU exemptions exist is irrelevant because our argument is that the vast majority of hospitals still do it in most cases, which proves this unsustainability. Too many all causes are wrong. Squire's evidence is more contextual than their evidence, and it's from 2025. Other all causes like work-life balance, review, corporatization that the second adventure solves and EHR solves, but they encourage more welcoming cultures. Med schools is obviously wrong. It has no statistics, and it's one person's evidence. You should prefer our evidence because they cite more people, and it's overall bureaucratic culture, which the plan is able to resolve because it forces hospitals to see the physicians' demands. Other countries solve is wrong. You've dropped the vaccines argument. Unions are key to innovating those, and they solve deployment of in other countries. And we've also heard evidence that the United States is specifically likely to go to war. Yes, shortage of doctors. Your evidence is from 2017. This is a disgrace. We have 25 evidence. Yes, pandemic's war impact is dropped. One, its capacity to overwhelm government, making decision-making erratic and kill people, nuclear command treating uncertainty of intense first strikes, who is nationals and close borders, and collapse straight fields, envelope, scapegoating with France, aggression. That's Paul Suzuki and the Gopal evidence. All can see bioterror defense, which answers back the argument about it making everything unsustainable. The second invention, all can see defense not going for it. It's irrelevant. They conceded the plan is still able to solve corporatization, even if there's or that the end of corporatization is inevitable, which means that there's no alt cause of the solvency. The backlash is that. Democracy is resilient. $20 with constitution difficult to change how to do from all the recent collapse of the goods that are control Trump. I didn't have the capacity to make it so much stronger. Trump's more own consider for those jokes. He did not show in the cards. The only way to is an actual coup to have to right decision to believe or the constitution every person that can lose the word unless except for the decision that has a major rule Trump's in terms of no natural air. The market at air. The link to this is so silly. I'm not sure what they're doing. We read a card that says that medical unionization is going up in the status quo, that the Twinsie drops. So I'm not sure why the plan is anything worse, given that the link isn't to the recognition of CBRs, but rather with the percentage of workers in a given industry that have CBRs. Physicians can what a bargain. And doctors are less than 1 million workers across the economy. The unionization is broadly up across the economy, which some like you're not going to figure into supplies labor. About 115,000 plans, 85,000 kinds of workers, who have school workers feeling rising up from 172 market at 172, and spillover is false for healthcare unions. 17% structurally down by economy as a kind of working the healthcare unions all membership plan national over 20% days to the healthcare at 47,000 new unknown diseases after demand health workers extending labor markets. Democracy impact is new in the Twinsie, which justifies the add-ons over their plan perceived as pro-labor misses the vote. They perceive it as Trump strengthening protections for wealthy workers, which is evidence we read on the HFC decide, which proves that the corporations don't perceive the need to counteract lobby. The plan is perceived as anti-labor, and it's not a typical labor law. The share for 23 not the unions just in the same way. There's a total alien concept. The people don't respond. There's no presumption argument because people don't respond, and the plan is able to solve because they've dropped the bound evidence that I explained above. The HFC decide. Drops healthcare solves everything on the case which contains the impacts that this side. It doesn't matter if there's a war because the strong healthcare system is able to kill people while they die. Readiness is high now. The readiness is high right now. They dropped that Trump is dedicating a historical amount of funding to the military, which subsumes their internal link, because that's about funding more military through the appropriations bill. You need to respond to the evidence and word, not just the claims. It's specifically about funding, which is a verifiable impact, which can then opt indict is certainly not enough. The argument of munitions is new but wrong. That's the double 57 numbers on rate reduction and reducing complexity of military working on range lower cost. People just making cheaper and easier to reroll initiatives lower costs to be facilitate large restaurant greater than surge already into the upcoming risk funding, which is a lot of these and push reducing new heights. COVID didn't disprove the after arguments that things have gotten worse since I entered the ball evidence. It doesn't turn the first advantage. There's no reason why war would make diseases more likely. I didn't catch a warrant in the Twinsie link doesn't tube solvency. The card highlights that nothing and drops that unions can bargain for lots of evidence, which is abound evidence. Now the bill won't pass as part of reconciliation. Brooks proves whenever not to settle will probably be part of the second reconciliation, and that doesn't pass. The HFC is revolting already, and people don't want to spend too much, and reconciliation never passes incorrectly, which is the McCarthy evidence. No passage that gets a 50 boost McCarthy through next never putting the party lines just localism the lesson in New York and I personally think it's 50 boost market at both unique pieces of fantasy cover 3 to have legal weapons, immigration, military, and election. And I said representatives that's right for the simple class in Norway the GP only for one as a faction. I don't see how we get the boost. I would love reconciliation. I would also love to look at Brad Pitt House, but the committee chair is irrelevant. HFC is what revolts. Obviously he thinks that it's fine. And your evidence prices in HFC, and your evidence doesn't assume reconciliation bill, which is what the bill is attached to. The Brooks evidence is irrelevant because you're paying through the fact that the plan is reconciliation, which is different from the supplemental package by itself. It's bad. Condo is bad. They can kick it if we read perms. The theory resolves arbitrariness. One is research. The night kicks counterplans instead of researching fixer answers inflating contrived positions. Education outweighs the only external benefit of debate. 2 is skew. They force coverage, making a big offensive waste of time and force unavoidable contradictions with inequality advantage counterplans that force econ links. And night flex is wrong. 8's inevitable employment law counterplan midterms in the cafe also benefit from infinite prep, and they get the block B. Flex not key. The best ones will use the block to punish straight turns, info processing, and innovation resolved in future debates. Risk aversion is a symptom of incomplete files intended by run and gun. They start innovation for night file logic is wrong. 1 condo is logical. Every policymaker has to defend proposals through controversy. 2 there's no impact in completed debates. And second, or truth is logical and is illogical to enforce an uneducational unfair debates who are often forensic. Condo's not inevitable. New apps are predictable. If their T DMU is backwards, more counterplans add warrants and processing can be via different plans. The 2-8 determining block strategy lacks an impact, and the night can cut evidence against counterplans, and this adds a 2-easy to find dispo, and we get to fiat our models and so back there unpredictable arguments. You should use competing interpretations. Anything else reads arbitrary intervention can cause a race to the bottom of questionable interpretations that cause every instance of abuse.
436. 436. Sorry, you read the Brooks card in the lawyer on uniqueness?
On the HSC, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The argument was the plan would be reconciliation?
No, the supplemental ironic funding is for reconciliation.
Right, okay.
guys catch this Duke UConn game? I'm just looking at the highlights right now. That's insane. That last one. Wow. March Madness this year has kind of been deep. Yeah, the steal as well.
Sorry, before starting to go over, I have like allergies. I just need to blow my nose.
Yeah, no, take your time.
Did we say Kessler?
Yeah.
Why did we do that?
James, 2.5 minutes into his reading. It's really kind of like it didn't read. So,
Why did I say Kessler?
it's Kessler. What's Kessler?
Kessler, that's like,
Kessler syndrome.
Like space.
yeah, yes.
Who's talking about the Kessler syndrome? Or Kessler thing?
Apparently, the entire debate will be about whether satellites are good.
You guys got satellites, good, right?
I don't think we should have one.
Was the one I see like CVRs for satellite workers?
No. We said Golden Dome, and then we said Kessler syndrome.
You're still probably just proof of this.
Yeah, that's the usual.
That's a good point. Coach is pretty close. Yeah, the other debater's not here.
We're missing the 2N.
He's blowing his nose.
Oh,
I mean, we can start if he really wants it out, but.
no, it's okay. We should wait for the debater. That's important.
Make it true.
How'd it go?
I got lost.
Oh, sorry.
Just direction challenge.
It happens. Okay. Is everyone good for order?
Yeah.
A-Spec, the politics DA, the backlash DA, AFL-CIO counterplan, corporatization advantage, autonomy.
Is corporatization advantage one?
That's two.
That's
Advantage two.
One more time.
A-Spec, HFC, backlash, AFL-CIO, corporatization, autonomy. Harvard, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Conditionality is good. We get what we did. They cannot claim offense from anything beyond that. It's at least arbitrary because it sets the threshold of desirability of our conditionality practices in this round, which is more logical than evaluating the normative value of conduct in a vacuum. The judge is referee that treats each round as contingent truth, not a norm cyber, because it's the only thing the ballot solves. But the impact is negative flexibility. It outweighs its deterministic of the extent of clash in a round because the neck is required to not only be reactive but responses. It outweighs the flex even if they win a larger internal link to their offense. There's multiple internal links. One, sandbagging. Dispo incentivizes the to sandbag their tricks and best offense until the 2EC to screw up the 1C strategy and predetermines the block after the 2EC, which makes conditional advocacy as necessary corrected to respond to F strategy. The 1AR said 3 words on this. So you know our impact is 100. Debaters are risk averse and won't introduce new strategies unless fully prepped, which overburdens neck prep and turns our clash offense because they over-focus on generic counterplans in case 2. Side bias. The app decides the topic has infinite preparation. 1AR said 3Cs. And Vegas is rampant and played around most. Neck arts are getting stale, and neck authors are hacks are easily inventable, all of which proves the neck needs more conditional advocacy to deter the app from over-prepping. There's 0 offense, 1 app choice solves, drops, smart perms, add-on straight turns, and predictive block dragging to a limited set of arguments provides sufficient sector flexibility. 2 skews, inevitable, fast speakers, T, gateway issues, short Ts, and etc. It's also solved by not expanding conditionality and solve in the toy art. Now, Dispo does not solve. 1, there's no consensus on what Dispo is, even if they define it, it's functionally conditionality, especially since teams will read abusive planks to force perms anyways. 2, it's a bad model, it's illusional, it's illogical, and insulated from real-world argumentative skills. Cutting DAs to counterplans disincentivizes apps for presenting advantages and tricks to their advocacy. Straight turns are a debate buzzword that would get you laughed out of the room. In any real argumentative setting, they conceded a logical policymaker would never ignore inaction as a plausible policy option, so logic outweighs and it's key to the portability of skills. Now, the politics DA. The DA is massive and vastly outweighs an incredibly nebulous disease war impact. 1, deterrence collapse, immediately greenlights adversaries to test the boundaries of escalation. In every major theater which draws in every great power and goes nuclear, only our impact has a clear time frame, and break WP evidence says that Xi will soon notice America's dwindling stockpiles of munitions, and that without a supplemental, they'll be immediately emboldened to invade Taiwan. Only our evidence recent. It is specifically about the munitions declaring the status quo and ignites aggression in literally every theater, which means even if the app has an internal link to war, it is not the largest one. And you know that ours is not contested. 2, dropped hidden impact defense only answered the COVID war, but the one in R included several others, past failures, bioterror, decades of antibiotics not causing resistance, rural collapse since 08 not escalating, food shocks like the Ukraine war and US drought, and global urban migration. These all apply to disease causing war because there are things that could have sparked a broad disease, but 2, they don't have any answer to other countries creating diseases. They don't have any arguments about burnout in other countries, and they don't have an internal link argument. Our internal link war is 1,000 times faster. Theirs requires a disease to break out, a country to react, and then to get to nuclear. Ours is about nuclear. Ours is about a conflict that is actively being fought, and it's more about it's more realistic now. The dissent turns a case 1, solvency, fine, says it backlash of Congress, because it's external things like that watered down the plan, like less enforcement resources, more lobbying to pass counteracting bills, and more. The 1AR app, the 1AR answer was Eb is poorly highlighted, which is just a lie. 2, it turns disease. Nobody wants to protect doctors or enforce quarantines or develop vaccines. We're at war, which means war is only inevitable in the world of the dissent, but not in the world of the status quo. It also causes other countries to stop monitoring disease because they're worried about getting drawn in. The only answer was no warrant, which is also a lie. Dissent also turns both add-ons, and they didn't properly kick either, so there's 2 more extinction impacts for the neck. Now, the uniqueness. Brooks is a negative card. The only warrant, the 2AC uniqueness card, which they reread in the 1AR, is there won't be reconciliation, which just answers just no takebacks. You don't want to spend money, is answered by one in our Punchbowl News, which explicitly says they're not worried about the price tag. They will use reconciliation, drop 4-1 in our cards, and just asserted they never do it, which is false, since it would be the second one. The Kapoor card is wrong. Drop the HFC is key, and GOP unity controls passage. Their evidence, one person saying they're skeptical. Our evidence is about the House broadly, and Brooks explicitly answers skeptics because the Pentagon will convince them to prefer Arrington. He's literally in charge of the end game and wouldn't express certainty until it was legit. They dropped the link, so there's only a risk the applicant passage. The 1AR didn't answer a single one in our card, so get ready to scratch the 2AR. Now, the backlash DA, I'll extend the link here because they're going to go for cross applications about unionization. Low here, they're going to go all in on the app. Barely affects unions, but it's a fail. 1, if they don't link, they don't solve anything. They've been incredibly vague about what the hell does the app do relative to the squirrel. So the 2AR is, we are not changing the status quo. The triodite goes away because the app is a half-ass try too. The 2AC read the link for us, and the 1AR said 0 words about it. You should not let them go for a cross application from another dissent. 3, the app might not be pro-labor, but it is certainly a market intervention. 1C Hill says the HSC is incredibly libertarian and was raised out of economics and hate any interventions for the original obvious link. The app's a pro-labor policy which angers the HSC. It's in their blood, which is 1C Hill and 1 Greenberg. Now the AFL-CIO counterplan, the 1AR says 0 words to strikes fail. They read it in the 2AC. We extended all the warranty. You know the case is absolutely 0. Now, corporatization. They said corporatization was inevitable, and all the internal links on Advantage 2 are about it disrupting healthcare access. That obviously makes disease inevitable in the world of the planet, and means there's genuinely 0 risk. You might not be willing to vote on that in other contingencies, but they have genuinely never responded to any of these promises, and they have introduced a premise that zeros their own internal link, which means I literally have to win the smallest risk of a DA for you to vote negative essentially immediately. Now, the autonomy advantage, the rest of the speech will be spent taking out the internal link taking out the internal link to disease. The 1 and the 2 and C explicitly connected the disease impact defense to it not causing war, and the 1AR, like the 1AR said no war. There's no bio risk impact. That pathogen has to infect everyone, be undetectable, lethal, and extraordinary infectious, and circumvent basic public health strategy, which is Florstat, its defense to pandemics and war from disease, because both built to be existential. The 1AR did not respond to a single warrant in Florstat. The 2 and C said that they explicitly had to. The high estimates of bio risk are 1 to 3%. Humans had an incredibly surprising amount of resilience, and there's only one instance in history where disease has led to extinction, which means you know there's only a risk of the DA, and the case is literally 0.
We have 4 minutes.
doing this?
Sorry?
What are you doing this?
I'm gonna study the bar.
Nice. Are you, which bar? You're,
I haven't decided yet, but definitely work. Yeah.
so you,
Probably DC.
what work is he after?
I don't know. Maybe think either. I mean, DC by care prestige. If not, I would rather have something like Atlanta.
Nice.
Yeah.
Atlanta's a really interesting city. I was there once. And it's just like so car centric. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
There's like not many people on the streets.
Yeah.
But like there's like a lot of cars and like you go inside somewhere, there's lots of people inside. Without a car, it's just it's kind of different from like the city.
Very different. Very different. How are you living
I like it. It's lots to do, obviously, and it's like it's nice being there while you're in the it's just like you're able to like see all the stuff. But I definitely it's really expensive, so that sucks.
Yeah. Were you there at the last summer?
Yes.
Did you get to do some of the summer stuff?
No, that was just for some Christmas.
Did you meet any of the summer stuff?
Yeah,
Did
like
you meet Summer Dad?
someone.
Yeah.
Was she a litigation associate? Probably not. She wasn't. I only really met people that were on my floor.
Maybe like a litigation.
Yeah. So it's mostly like 3 or 4 years that I'm on litigation a lot of stuff.
Where's the office?
In Midtown, right now, it's like,
Sure. Nice.
Ace back. Okay, throwing good. Awesome. Condition obvious one issue. Offense defense is decisively apt. Every single negative impact is either solved by this vote, heard by our office, or a combination of both that makes it impossible to vote neg. The research outweighs. The winner had 2 wars. The tutor did not answer them at all. 1. Breath over depth. Condition outweigh. Irreparably distorts file production and substance pre-circulation errors. Disincentivize innovation and removes the carrot for improvement between tournaments. Any 2 head with brain cells will cut 5 cars for 10 tablets instead of 50 on 1, resulting in uncooperative factor and infinite lift instead of core office regarding labor and financial value, which is what the winner was getting at. When we said their interpretation encourages flawed. Our interpretation is souls. Teams are incentivized to research their tablets and depth because of the threat of reading straight truth and their DA, preventing throwaway generic positions. The story debates from caution. To protect you, tutor, in that down. It was explicit in the 2C and extended by the winner. Anything else turns the fairness place. It's the only skill for debate that is horrible to every other aspect of our life, like the worst way that higher academia, digging deep into the pros and cons of physical policy teaches us how to look at the world with a precise and detailed oriented eye, which is the crucial skills, no matter what we decide to do when our careers end. The winner clearly included education that way because it's the only portable skill of debate. The tutor did not answer it at all, neither did the block. So you know it's the biggest impact. The tutor notably did not include fairness outweighs, didn't say Netflix outweighs, but really those were internal link arguments in disguise. So you should automatically be on research Alder office. Now, frame Alder office with disco. Here's our red line. You get to take the few recurrence of theory. It's listed in the 2C and the winner. Then we said any neg RP must center around allowing for administrative interest is worse than banning them. That's the only difference between our models and theirs. So the thesis of committee determinations. Now, the framing issue for Alder office. The tutor is totally new on nearly every argument. I'm going to list arguments that were nowhere present in the 2C because I have a transcription of it, and completely new in the tutor. 1, the judge is a referee. What the fuck are you talking about? 2, Netflix outweighs impact help, not present in the block, but notably our impact help was presented in 2C and 9 and dropped. 3, dispo means that we can sandbag. That was not there totally. They said unless 2 weeks determined block strategy, not sandbagging, which is totally new word. 4, most of their office external DAs to dispo. So I obviously get new answers to all these, but inevitably the tutor also dropped most of our one-year defensive arguments anyway. So either you should strike every new argument since it was unpredictable, or adopt near infinite leeway when assessing if our answers were sufficient or not. Now, they say the judge is a norm setter, not a referee. What the fuck does this mean? I'm going to remind you again. Least arbitrary was totally totally new, and the one in our argument is not arbitrary either. It just requires dispo. And the one is explicitly clear that affirms in theory that their arguments are a non-starter. Notice that the block dropped competing interpretations. So you're solely evaluating our interpretation versus theirs because anything else creates intervention and arbitrary judgment. And the tutor had an opportunity to say reasonably, they did not. So you should assess the debate solely via model. So the judge being a referee is totally irrelevant. Now, neg flex outweighs. Frame it through dispo. They can read as many counterplans as they want. They just have to research them moderately, competently to defend against straight terms. That includes what it sees with states and counterfactuals. If only if it's right, because we must permute them and they don't contradict. Our model just says we can win by winning one of those processes is bad, which occurs more in depth in app research. The tutor is fundamentally a defensive speech in that regard. Importantly, they didn't explain why flex has an internal link to contradictory net benefits, but we have a bunch of arguments for what connotates net flex too far and dissociates enough of their office. Now, even if you don't think research always 2C gives a bigger internal link to flexibility, every net speech drop that 2C's last chance for affirmative offices is the final chance for new arguments. The one or two words, one not simple, conditionality, less than that. If we're introduced to uniqueness, worlds like the affirmative must always spend one word plan, but today gets one word to one option with no threshold for explanation. Only dismissals. Thinking the actual world versus the ask. One word is reciprocal. Two contradictions. The one two guard did not say a word on this. Conditionality is modelist for 2S. Worse inconsistencies in ways that disadvantage the app. Any add-on and any hardcode is linked to the game. That means that if you have to do the build, don't have the goal. Do the find the goal to know, don't have the goal to know, etc. Which makes affirming impossible. It makes generating office impossible, which is certainly a large to flex. Now, net flex, oh my god, MSU did not answer either one of our defensive arguments. Flow better. One, the topic, the employment law counterplan, midterms, and happy are absolutely busted. And host possess as they circumvent any potential award for AppKey, prefer topic-specific words. They drop that quote, they get the block, which cancels out everything. Tutor didn't say anything about that. So their interlink to Netflix is 0. B, flex is not key because the tutors will use the block to punish straight turns. Now, now answer their back outlets here. Sandbagging, it's totally irrelevant. And the tutor lacks an interlink. They can read all the counterplans they want. But our interpretation just tutor swap. If we sandbag, they can also sandbag via their best impact calc answers, tricks, and leverages vocabulary to get out of our internal link. Debaters risk averse. Drunk answer. Risk aversion is a symptom of incomplete files that are incentivized by conditionality and terrible run and gun. However, they start innovation for neg files because we'll just read the uncommon federal vocabulary without actually researching DAs to it or answering them, which means that they create asymmetric innovation side bias. Once again, drop to get the block, which turns everything. I'm not sure why I always talk about words. The turn was a disgrace. The sole argument is, quote, most neg artists are getting stale and neg others are hacks and most neg authors are hacked. This is just empirically untrue. Lecture on employment law, happening, etc. is very controversial, which is proven by how waxed every first round team this year. Smart firms are irrelevant. They can be counterplans that can be LOL. Add-ons can be answered by themes of broad counterplans, and most are unnecessary lack interlink, so they're swiftly dismissed. Skew inevitable. They downplay, even if it's inevitable, we should still minimize it. At worst, they said fast speakers may skew inevitable, so this equally cuts against neg flex, which is their own argument. But again, that's not our impact logic. So go down to the dispo argument. It does solve. They dropped the 2C. Define it, which we conceded. This round is a question of models, and it's certainly predictable. You should fiat or universalize the world where everyone reads only dispo counterplans, since that's what our model is, which answers their contention arguments. Now, this is functionally analysis. There's 4 terms. 1, this is new, but 2, this wrong. There's not more counterplans. Add words. The process counterplans can be via multiple planes, which solves their offense. This argument is also just a few words in the should There's no scenario as why force words are inevitable, and there's the answer above. We can produce individual counterplans while not producing others. For example, if someone adds a world peace counterplan to a particular counterplan, that is a distinct play, or at least can be permuted, because that's how we define our definition of dispo. They say it's logical and insulated from real world skills. They dump our impact terms of logic, and that is totally irrelevant. The argument to extend impact with citation is also not an intrusive in their debate. They drop one or symbol that if logic with this activity is defined feature no judgment about time of truth, since it's logical to know where fact when a falsity is dropped. Education is the product of abstract logic from a well-researched and independent position. Now, they say it's insulated from real world skills. It's not logical, but it's true. Messed up by tying this internal to a terminal of real world skills. They drop the policymakers how to defend proposals through controversy, and it's not intrinsic to me, which is our internal link turned through logic. Take over truth isn't logical. Up to Laura, I can say you're wrong on real world equivalent of uniqueness and link, and they say logical policymaker never ignores action. No impact to it. This goes crush.
Do it.
Number one.
Yeah, I'm appreciate
I guess I can go first. For me, the main issue is that, in particular, against the like framing arguments at the top of the 2NR about like how I'm supposed to think about this debate, whether it's as a referee or as a question of like, should I take the most extreme examples of conditionality as and like take that into consideration for which way that I vote. You are extremely reliant on don't let the neg say new stuff, even though the 2AC said basically nothing, and the 1AR developed the argument massively. So like it didn't even occur to me not to let the neg have all of their new 2NR explanation. And like, frankly, even making that big of a deal out of this hurt you way more in other places because there were places where the 2AR was new. And then your like actual substantive explanation for why I shouldn't think about the debate that way was basically just like, however, no, you shouldn't. And the neg has reasons that I should, which are that I should adjudicate, like, I shouldn't evaluate principles in the abstract. Like, I've seen the evolution of conditionality as a practice in this debate. I've seen it play out. I've seen the people operating under the incentive structures that it creates. And there's a ballot proximity argument about what kinds of abuses that I'm capable of remedying that, like, the 2AR just kind of has nothing about. This puts me in a little bit of a weird situation, only because, like, although the 2NR, I thought, won this argument quite decisively, weirdly, neither team really talked that much about what I should do in a world in which I think about conditionality that way. I think that the main thing that would have made this 2NR much cleaner would have been if you explained how your debating in this case illustrated why, like, the views of conditionality they're describing are not actual. But, like, kind of missing explanation from each side, there's a couple of ways that I kind of break that tie. First, you all accuse the neg of not having a reasonability argument. To me, this is what being a referee is. Like, I'm thinking about whether or not cheating has occurred, essentially, and whether or not I should exercise my authority as a judge to override what would have been the substantive outcome of the debate because there was some kind of procedural abuse. I think that given that I'm thinking about the abuse that happened in this particular debate and I thought that it was nothing, I like kind of shouldn't do that. And so to me, that is their substitute or their like version of a reasonability argument. Two, I kind of have this strong background assumption that whenever I'm being asked to impose a norm proactively to override what would have been the outcome of a debate, that carries to me some level of burden of proof on the team that is asking me to do this. And because you all didn't contextualize any of your arguments to what the neg did here, and that's the standard that I'm applying, I basically don't really think that you all have that much relevant offense that leads me to say that I should look at them and tell them that what they did in this debate rose to the level of cheating such that I as a referee should tell them that they deserve to lose. And then, you know, I can go into a couple of like more ticky-tacky arguments that are just like, you know, like I thought a little bit about just like, if I were to like just look at all the offense and see like based on my gut, like does this seem like it applies? Like did it encourage them to eat slop as described by the 2AR? Like clearly no, it didn't. Like did the neg do research about the AF? Yeah, like clearly they did. Did they use the counterplans for clash avoidance? They didn't have a counterplan in the block. So like, it's like, obviously this is all like totally intervenient, whatever, but just like in the absence of any contextualization of any of the offense on either side, I kind of feel a little bit more comfortable doing that. And then there's a couple of defensive arguments that I don't think are handled correctly. In particular, I thought that the 2AR's explanation of why dispositionality means that you can't add planks to force perms was a new clarification of what dispositionality is. And while I happen to think that it's an accurate one, that's not an explanation that I have in the 1AR, and that is also kind of an illustration of how there can be contextual disagreements about the meaning of dispositionality as described by the 2NR. That means that if I don't give you that piece of defense, then I think the dispositionality solves very little of actually what you're going for. The skew inevitable explanation was not in fact about speed alone. It was about a variety of other arguments like T gateway issues, short DAs, which seems like it links to all of your education arguments about creating a way for the neg to just like spread people out of the debate and like prevent deep clash from occurring about anything because gateway issues replicate all of the same effects that you're describing. All of that is like, you know, it's some mitigation, whatever. It ultimately gets me to the same place, which is just like ultimately I do evaluate this debate in terms of reasonability, and within that world, I don't think that you have very much going on.
I'll quickly go next because I agree pretty much entirely with the substance of that decision. I think maybe the only place where I diverged is like the initial starting point in the way that I would articulate the way that I arrived at that conclusion, which is that I thought that their interp was just what we did. Their interp consistently was what we did in both the 2NC and in the 2NR. At no point does the AF say what we did is a bad, arbitrary interpretation. So even if I use competing interpretations, I'm exclusively evaluating what they did in this debate. The problem for that is that's exactly what they want me to do by being like the judge as a referee, and I should just evaluate what I saw throughout the course of this debate. So even if I agree with you that competing interpretations are best, that still means I basically default to the position that I'm a referee evaluating how good or bad conditionality was in this instance. In that particular case, the vast majority, if not all, of the 2AR offense basically goes away because for all of the reasons that Troop articulated. It just doesn't apply to what they did in this debate. And I spent the vast majority of the decision basically going through the AF offense and thinking, could I tell MSU that this was descriptive of what they did in this debate? And I'm not going to rehash everything, but I literally went through the exact same process of being like, was this slot? Did they avoid clash? Was this bad for education? Did they do research? And my answer was basically the opposite on every question of what you wanted it to be. And so I thought that there was basically no AF offense because the AF offense was articulated basically to infinite conditionality as is described throughout the debate. And that is not what their interpretation has ever been. I also think like there's one thing conceptually about the level of generality of we get what we did is. Does that mean they get the AFL-CIO counterplan and states? Does that mean they get 2 conditional advocacies? Does that mean they get 2 conditional counterplans? Like, what does that actually mean in practice? And I was thinking about like the level of generality question, but you didn't say that, so I did not look into it too much.
Yeah, so I was pretty close to Truth and Zahir. I thought it was pretty disingenuous to say like no reasonability when the 2NR basically just starts with a reasonability style argument. I think, and then they defend that with standards. Like they say it's least arbitrary way. They say it was more logical. We do the ballot thing, and you all extend competing interpretation, and then you accuse them of dropping it, but then you never really like do impact calculus and do a next level of debating about why competing interpretation is good, why it's better than reasonability. You're just relying on like 2NR to not say the words reasonability, therefore I have to fiat the model is absolutely true. And I don't think that's, what the 2NR actually did, given that we started off conditionality with all this stuff that was already explained. I think it was the only other thing I would add is I thought for the negative, there was a lack of like terminal impact calculus in the final rebuttal in terms of like fairness turning education. You do have this like small argument about like neg flex turning clash, which could be interpreted as education. But I would say be a little careful about that in the future and just like more terminal impact calculus. Like I thought this reasonability stuff was obviously, I think what we all voted on, but in the future I would interact a bit more with their other external offense that you're not really going for.
Okay, I agree. I concluded only evaluate in round. I think I was maybe a little bit closer to the AF on this than others because I actually thought both sides had a drop justification. So I don't agree that the AF had no justification for models. I think the AF said alternatives to competing interps cause judge intervention. So you have that. The neg has don't evaluate because this debate is the only thing the ballot controls. So you both have something. But I ended up neg, I think because like the neg's argument is just simply more persuasive and better explained. Like it seems kind of arbitrary for MSU to be on the hook for like devolve, induce, threaten, pass, don't pass when they didn't do any of that, right? Like the neg just has more narrative coherence, like on what judges do, what norms they should police. Every debate is its own universe. Judges don't actually fiat their model. They're just like describing how I should think about the debate in a more in-depth and convincing way than you are. Once I'm there, StratSkew goes away because the neg didn't force you to contradict yourself. And I also think that cuts against research because it requires me to think about debate in terms of models. Like I have to consider what the neg's interp, if universalized, would do to educational practices over the course of a season, right? That by definition can't start with a timer and end with a ballot. So I'm barred from evaluating that. Once I'm there, neg flex outweighs remaining offense. The main internal I voted on was sandbagging. I did not think this was new in the 2NR. To the contrary, I flowed the 2NC saying it, and I think the 1AR dropped it. Apps change in the 2AC, plans are vague, the neg needs some slack. If the app is slippery, the neg just becomes target practice. There seems to be some controversy about the balance of the topic. I get this was indecisive, like the app asserts the neg has plenty to say, the neg asserts it's actually really hard to be neg, and you both have justifications that aren't really interacting with one another. But I don't really think that answers sandbagging. Like if the AF can shift in the 2EC, that seems to make everything in your tub a lot weaker. I don't think Dispo solves it. In fact, sandbagging, that's the whole premise. If the neg introduced a counterplan based on one understanding of the AF, and then the AF changed a lot in the 2EC, that could cook the neg's whole strategy in a way that having a fallback constructive doesn't really solve. Yeah, I agree. Fairness linked, not really impacted, but hosing the neg seems kind of bad to me, I guess. And then my last thing is about your research stuff. I guess one of my hangups is like 5 card. Like, look, I just didn't care enough. Like 5 cards spread across 10 counterplans rather than 50 concentrated on one. That didn't seem like that big of a deal. Like, should I actually tie the hands of 2 ends because you want to read a DA to uncooperative federalism? Like, I don't think if you want to go for condo, like you should paint the negs interp as truly apocalyptic. Like, you have to go through and give a lot of. I think most of the time you have to win competing interps. So there's that, but you also need to narrate like the stuff the neg would get to say that would really corrupt the pedagogical nature. Like, you know, every abusive counterplan in 1NC, all of that. And then I also thought condo made research resemble the real world more closely.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I think while there is like a drop justification for competing interpretations, even if that is the case, kind of like Zakir said, if their interpretation essentially is just what we did in this debate, even if competing interpretations, I kind of just conclude that I still can only evaluate what happened in the debate. The only other kind of point that I had some pause on was this like education/research first argument. But even if I think that's true, a lot of the 2NR offense in terms of like risk aversion, sandbagging against DISPO is articulated as like this discourages negative innovation and research about new arguments on the topic.
That'll make a lot of sense to me. 2 like post hoc questions. So if the 2AR had answered this like referee thing like more closely and like answered every day internally, and had said, if you evaluate this debate, like the 2AR didn't do any junk instruction for what to do. So like we obviously get to contextualize it, and like they drop theory on every page for why every counterpoint is slop and terrible. Thoughts? What do you even have?
Interesting, like conceding theory, like reject the argument, not the team. Does that mean the counterplan is slop? I don't necessarily think that it's like a 1-to-1 correlation. I also think in the world where the negative just like says reasonability, like the words reasonability, and you know the block conceded it, you said it on topicality, right? So I think that puts you in a pretty tough spot.
Yeah. We said
in this world,
first bad, but we didn't say reasonable. Like we said reasonability on T, but whatever. But makes
right.
sense. Yeah.
But if you say it and then the block concedes it,
Sure, yeah.
then that becomes true, right? Like it didn't happen in this debate, but in that world, it's a lot harder. I still feel like, at least me personally, I'm more persuaded by the negative flexibility warrants than like a lot of the objections. I think research, you need to do what Graham said basically. It has to be like the 2AC literally does not get to think because the negative will counterplan out of every impact turn. Like pass the bill, trigger the bill. Like we don't get to generate offense. We don't get to straight turn DAs. We don't get to impact turn DAs. Like we don't get to impact turn anything. And then just like go hard and like that outweighs neg flex. It was also, I think 1AR has to answer sandbagging as well.
Yeah, trying to prove that this 2AC to the DAs happened because they had the AFL-CIO counterplan in the 1NC is like not the way that you want us to be thinking about this debate.
Right. I have nothing else. Thanks you all for joining. Good debate.
I just had one question. Substance related, so like rewind back to the 1NR, nobody's thought about that in 2 hours, but the way I was trying to turn the case was like Iran war bumps everything. But the 1NC doesn't technically say that the bill solves the Iran war, we're just like solves other stuff. The 1NR did read a card that it did, but obviously that opens us up to like Iran war impact turns, presumably. Worth it to turn the case. I just kind of banked that like that's not where Harvard was headed after seeing this 2AC, and like that would have been like still okay for us, but certainly a liability.
If you already have a great power war, why?
To turn the case. Otherwise, it's like
No,
how
I understand, but
not
like,
worth
The original great power.
the original great power war would
Yeah.
obviously turn the case more than
well, but like Iran turns energy prices, Iran turns debt, like
I
not worth
I
any
know
of
if China would turn energy prices. I don't.
Okay, so just
Like, I
not
don't-
worth it. Like I overcooked the hell out of that.
It might help you circumvent military resilience. That to me, I think might be the only case in which you actually get utility from this.
I think I'm maybe more with you that like of what you want to do. But like if you're worried about that, just read the cardinal and then see.
Yeah, also fair.
I like the 1 hour in politics a lot. I thought if you wanted to overcook some uniqueness stuff, or link stuff, like more warrants, like they conceded with pieces of this solves any reason why.
More thoughts, but not more cards.
Yeah, I think cards were
yeah.
fine, more thoughts, like analytical things that help, boost uniqueness, even if the cards aren't great, which I didn't look at the card docs, I don't know if they were. But like, whatever warrants 1 and C card says, like they conceded this means that, even if their evidence is like a snapshot, doesn't assume that bipartisanship, whatever, like momentum gets it passed. You can say on the link turn, like the link turn proves the link because it demonstrates that there's one party that dislikes a plan, one party that likes a plan, and then they fight over the plan. So even if they win that it's popular with some people, it's not like, doesn't prove that it actually passes the bill.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
All right, thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joanna, to be clear, I did quite like the 1 hour, but you asked would I have done this.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm not taking that personally. Like I asked for you all to like say bad things about it.
I also think
Oh, I can.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but like
do it once.
I got into an argument.
Which is we can start a little too quick. You need to explain a little more, just slightly a little bit more, and then I'm like, but really nice job. Really nice job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was worried about substance. I mean, that is easy. I don't think it needs to be
At least sure.
Like it decapitates C2, like leaders getting.
Do you think that just that happened? Like,
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think they have a possibility to. I mean, they're gonna have to.